My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. P.O.C. This is what Amazon Prime is doing after 5 p.m. at the same Economy Inn, flying over my head while I'm standing right here documenting the people of the state gang stalking. This is the 60 freeway. And this is, again, just like flying over the Everhome Suites, flying which is, again, nowhere near arrival or departure from an airport, doing so while the fake sun is over me at 7:13 in the morning, in alignment with, that's the entity that's gang stalking under the fake sun that remains at Economy Inn. at what is 12:50 in the afternoon. What's 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, where the L&D WAPNER is gang stalking by commercial planes. And the entity did so right now, as they know that I just documented them gang stalking, flying over the hotel room that I was inside of. Fake sun follows as I'm at this same mobile documenting in the middle of the afternoon where the people of the state are gang stalking, just like 8SHP365, with the demons who are crossing path and impossible light is reaching over here under a fake sun that is not the sunrise, identifying surveillance by the government, by the people of the state who are in the shoes of the government, not private citizens. That's the Ontario International Airport gang stalking, just like they are at the Ramada by Windham at 1841 East G Street, where the sun is not going to be present over my hotel room in its zenith at 10:13 in the morning. And it's also not mutually remaining over the 60 freeway, where the Ramada Inn is adjacent over the 10 freeway, and the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking the same in that specific environment. That's P.O.C. All right, and that's the entity that's been monitoring my vagina inside of the hotel room, where the entity is gang stalking. The entity is not doing so a stranger pursuant to what is about your presence. That's impossible light on the car of the demon, that immigrant, license KKB 99. This is 2301 South Euclid Avenue, Economy Inn. This is P.O.C. That's federal stalking under Title 18 that the Ontario International Airport is engaging in, and the fake sun moves as I move. All right, that's P.O.C. This is the same fake sun where it's setting, where Ontario police are gang stalking at 6 in the evening. 231 South Euclid Avenue. This is all stalking, surveillance by the state. All right, that's P.O.C. Southwest Airlines. This is terrorism. This is the conspiracy to murder, the gang stalking entity that is targeting an American citizen. And targeting is very clear, flying over my head on the sidewalk where the fake sun moves as I move. All right, that's P.O.C. This is Grocery Outlet. Ontario International Airport is gang stalking in the same manner at 12:51 p.m. while I'm in this parking lot. The Ontario police are gang stalking while they are stalking in the parking lot and behind me, and stalking is recognized in that specific environment, which is supernatural. Grocery Outlet is also the same crime scene where the fake sun is also setting, and this is the entity that's engaged in this game, and they're doing so pursuant to knowledge of surveillance. So this is the Ontario Police Department that's being disbanded for gang stalking with the City of Ontario. That includes the Ontario International Airport. The Ontario Police Department is being for this ongoing surveillance that's committed in furtherance of a conspiracy to murder. And Southwest Airlines is engaged in gang stalking in the same manner at the same time at the Ontario Town Square, for example. And Ontario Town Square is a state facilitated venue where the sun is not at the same time north of this location. And you want to pay attention to the entity that's going out of its way to obviously engage in state surveillance, state targeting, threatening someone that they know is also documenting and putting it on the internet, because that's relevant to federal time in prison. This is relevant to the impunity. This is relevant to the people of the state that engage in targeting by kidnapping with the Ontario police, for example, Ocean at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, where the sun is not at the same time, 7:17 a.m. L. Edwards is engaging in criminal summoning with Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. That is not at Grocery Outlet. That is not adjacent to Economy Inn. That is not going to have the sun next to L. Edwards' head in the Starbucks on Euclid Avenue. This is where the entity is flying over my head. In Southwest Airlines, the city is going out of its way, targeting. That's exactly what the Ontario Police Department were doing. And L. Edwards, A. Quesada, and Alex Escobar are going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. And this is the impunity with which they commit kidnappings, that they defame American citizens, that they engage in criminal surveillance, and they abuse the law enforcement in doing so. And the people of the state, which is what the gang stalking airlines represent, are sharing in that criminal. And this is the entity that's engaging what is sacrificing American citizens and doing it on the World Wide Web, okay? This is the entity that is gang stalking under a fake sun. This is mental illness while you're engaging in that against an American citizen that's putting it on the internet. This has nothing to do with the published arrivals and departures either on the Ontario International website. And this is the same venue where the entity has the fake sun after 7 p.m. Look at what I documented at Economy Inn, which is right here, 2301 South Euclid Avenue, and the fake sun is in alignment to me while I'm standing at that parking lot, and you can see the fake sun, which is right here, reflecting off of a window in alignment to me at this same venue. This is where the entity is clearly engaging what is stalking. This is the mental illness, the impunity of an entity that is engaging in what is mentally deranged methods of stalking, which is shown to be underway by the government. That includes Paul Leon, Mike Lorenz, Alan D. Wapner, Michael Gerken, and the entity that is gang stalking as a local government body that's going to be prosecuted for what they're doing very openly and obviously using commercial planes, which is in furtherance of a conspiracy to commit murder with the people of the state.
All right, very foolish. And Ocean of Starbucks, they're going to federal prison for committing a kidnapping, which is how domestic terrorism is executed in the United States. And the entity is doing so with the Ontario Police Department. And this video evidence of engaging in this impunity, this level of disregard of federal law, while you're already being prosecuted on the internet, you're going to prison. That's the reward that they get for openly gang stalking, and the entity is doing so. You're going to look at the Ontario International website because it's not published sites, it's not published flights while they're stalking me, and it also has nothing to do with what would be published regarding arrivals and departures. It is 7:19 a.m. That's P.O.C. This is Grocery Outlet 2275 South Euclid Avenue. This is the entity that provides that evidence against itself. Ocean at Starbucks is going to federal prison along with everybody else that was monitoring with the Ontario Police under the malicious guise of criminal summoning, where the police departments are engaging in federal group stalking monitoring, gang stalking with the city of Ontario that's using commercial planes, and Alan D. WAPNER is going to be removed from office. This is P.O.C. It's 7:19 a.m. I couldn't ask for a better defendant. P.O.C. All right, it is Wednesday, August 27, 2025, and gang stalking along with the Ontario International Airport. This is the entity that's very foolish. Everybody else is gang stalking along with those demons engaging in terrorism and psychological torture using commercial planes. That includes 9FXB 656, 8VRL 894 demons stalking with light as well. Using their vehicles as the method of light activity, and it's the demonstration of mental illness. While public corruption is underway, while airport is engaging in stalking and monitoring an American citizen. And how do they do it? By gang stalking at the nearby liquor store, where you're accomplishing relevant positioning. Where the entity engages in the obvious conduct of gang stalking by an unintelligent public entity that they share criminal engagement of targeting and psychological torture with, this is the easy, this is what becomes an easy prosecution of that government. This is Wine Barrel Liquor at 2205 South Euclid Avenue, where the fake sun is over me. And it's not going to be at 507 North Euclid Avenue beside L. Edwards' head while he is facing me, monitoring me, while wearing a police uniform, which is why he's going to federal prison. He's going straight to federal prison, where every gang stalking police officer is going. License 8GBR328, 6685084, 8ZKP526, 05052U3. Gang stalking, license 8TVD992. They're stalking with the entity that just shows you that the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking. It's P.O.C. Okay, the demons who are engaging in that violence of stalking in commercial planes, that psychological torture inherent to stalking someone in a manner that's supposed to result in their being depicted in some false manner. This is what the government is engaging in with the people of the state. And that includes the stalkers, the demons, the psychopaths who are also engaged in pedophilia, engaging in this gang stalking system. License 9ENT627. This is a demon that's molesting me with light that is impossible to naturally occur. That's getting to the malice. The same malice that's behind stalking an American citizen in a commercial airline plane. License 8RGP412, sharing in that same conduct, and doing so while the entity is keeping the fake sun, and license 9ADJ673, and they are gang stalking at 7:29 a.m. at Mission and Euclid Avenue on the roads and the highways, sharing in federal stalking under Title 18, acting in furtherance of the conspiracy to murder an American citizen that they are together sexually violating, psychologically torturing, harassing and terrorizing, and doing so with the government. It's state action while they're monitoring, and those are the license plates of third parties that are conspiring murder together while gang stalking. All right, they are doing so with specific knowledge and intent, as you will see that fake sun remaining over me, where the entities engage in the same pattern of conduct using commercial planes, indicative of state action. All of it is state action. They're monitoring evidence that's also being published on the venue of the internet. As you can hear in the background, I am aboard Omnitrans that is also monitoring me while I'm subject to this sex offense, this gang stalking, and it is providing Wi-Fi. So Omnitrans is engaged in federal stalking on the venue of the internet, and the light activity is relevant to what I'm doing online, achieving what is monitoring, but it's also the documentation regarding sexual violence while you're molested with the possible light, while you're being gang stalked with the fake sun, you're under surveillance on the internet, on communication devices, and that's relevant to all of what I've shown you happening on the bus, where the fake sun moves as I move on that bus, like I showed you, Route 61, in the afternoon yesterday, and the entity is on Euclid Avenue. nowhere near 1841 East G Street. The entity is maintaining a fake sun going in the north direction on Euclid Avenue. And again, at 10:13 in the morning, how is the sun going to be not only anywhere over G Street, but over my hotel room at 1841 East G Street, where you're looking at that exclusivity regarding stalking with the sun, which is already an impossible occurrence. But it's an impossible occurrence with regards to a natural environment that is proven to be the fact of the matter as a matter of documentation, because of the level of malice by the government that is engaging in what is conspiring the murder of an American citizen, that it is gang stalking indeed. It is currently, again, 7:33 a.m. This is P.O.C. That speaker means is a means of monitoring. It's audible activity. Okay. In relevant position, the people of the state are getting on and off. The people of the state are the same demons engaging in surveillance everywhere I'm at, including a hotel, a library, on the roads and the highways. This is P.O.C. It's 7:33 a.m. This is bus number 1333, getting off at Euclid and Hope Boulevard, where the fake sun is documented from morning until evening as well. Excuse me. Sorry. Go ahead. This is P.O.C. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Pardon me. And this is license plate, by the way. 1302445. That's Omnitron, so it's gang stalking. Excuse me? What? Ice cream in the morning? No, I'm fine. That's audible activity by an idiot that's monitoring. License. Again, the Omnitron's license plate is, again, that's monitoring. Well, monitoring also the evidence, because I'm using that Wi-Fi. 1302445. That's POC. And I'll show you the fake sun, where that bus is moving away, and that sun does not move. It stays where I am, showing you that Omnitrans, again, affiliated, associated, directly linked to the criminal activity of Alan D. Wapner, who's been engaged in the conspiracy to murder an American citizen, and doing so through the corrupt practices of the Ontario International Airport and Omnitrans public transport. They are engaged in state surveillance, and doing so in furtherance of the conspiracy to murder. And that's also tying together the body of evidence of targeting using the city airport, which is getting to public corruption, and it's a template for what the entire state of California is doing, while the entity keeps things like a fake sun over me, an impossible light all around me, including on my person, where I'm documenting a pattern of conduct of harassment and terrorism and psychological torture. All right, this is POC. I'm now at 150 East Hope Boulevard. That's the bus stop. That nearest address is at the corner of Hope Boulevard and Euclid, where I've documented this fake sun in the afternoon and in the evening sunset. Remember what Ontario police are doing at 6 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm at this same intersection, Hope Boulevard and Euclid Avenue, where the people of the state are stalking on the roads and the highways like they are now on this same street. It is 7:35 a.m. and the fake sun is setting on Hope Boulevard and Euclid Avenue, the same intersection where I'm at right now, where Upland Police stalking me, and knowing that they've been documented stalking me, engaging in kidnapping, came to Ontario at this intersection under the fake sun that was setting, engaging in what is gang stalking, and they did that on video and in images which I published. This is where the entity is gang stalking by airline, engaging in that economy, and where the entity is engaging in what is obvious means of targeting, and it's only obvious once they realize the documentation, because these are demons that are not intelligent. These are demons that commit murder. They don't think, they just act, and they don't have to, because the entity is engaging in corruption. And so the presupposition is that the target individual will be dead, and no one's ever going to believe them anyway, because they're going to be written off as crazy. When you get past all that, and Satan can't kill you with witchcraft, they can't defame your character to have you discarded. You're not going to be disregarded with regard to evidence that you're proving targeting in a multitudinous manners. You are going to be prosecuted. I mean, from the top down. And the entity is going to be federally prosecuted with regard to gang stalking police officers that committed kidnapping in furtherance of murder, kidnapping, helping Tracy Banks and Jason Fields defame my character, relying on the gang stalking conduct like what L. Edwards committed and A. Quesada, Alex Escobar committed. That's what Jason Knighton committed, kidnapping while gang stalking to obstruct justice. This is what Lester Keys committed. This is what S. Patty committed. This is what Jonathan Burnett committed, kidnapping in furtherance of murder, while that gang stalking police department were stalking just like they are now. They are stalking while the Ontario International Airport is targeting me, flying over my head on the sidewalk repeatedly. You're not only looking at the specific environment, you're looking at the frequency with which they have those planes flying over the top of my head, flying over the mobile. They're flying south over the 60 freeway. to cross paths with me. And this is what, and I'm going to give you context just like I did in the video that you listened to. Those are the demons that engage in that sort of conduct, not only because they're monitoring me, but then the demons are always hostile because I always catch them. So you have a psychopath that will engage in even more violent and aggressive conduct, such as flying more frequently over the hotel room, flying more frequently over my office at work, flying more frequently over my apartment where I live, or over Tracy Banks' apartment where I remain, where the entity is gang stalking, engaging in more of that, including helicopter activity, including ongoing impossible light activity. That's the entity that's threatening you through that specific environment. And that specific environment is a terrorizing threat to your well-being. While they're harassing you because you have the ability and the audacity to document it, that's why I capture that. And while the entity is triggered, you capture that video documentation. You remember what else was happening, such as the Ontario Police Department kidnapping at the same time in an environment that is impossible to naturally occur or coexist, showing you that pattern of conduct, which puts demons like L. Edwards, A. Quesada, and Alex Escobar where they belong in federal prison, and that's where they're going. And that entirety of that department is not only being disbanded, but everybody that engaged in kidnapping. This is what Jonathan Burnett, S. Patty, like I stated, A. Morris, Corporal Kemp, Jonathan Burnett, the Jason Knighton, Lester Keys. This is what C. Torres, L. Martinez, B. Hook, and Nathan Morgan, amongst others that engaged in kidnapping. They're gang stalking. They've been engaged in criminal surveillance, in other words, for years. And that is shared by the City of Ontario, the Ontario International Airport. This is the significance of the kidnapping committed in January of 2020. It is already published on my website, where I'm documenting the Ontario Police Department stalking with the Ontario International Airport, who is stalking by commercial plane at 636 North Vine Avenue. That's the significance of what I'm documenting. And this is when Jason Knighton physically attacks me. I'm subject to a battery. And then after this African-American demon-possessed gang stalking police officer attacks me, a grown man attacks me, then he commits what is kidnapping and then lies the reason why he arrested me. They don't use those terms when they're criminally monitoring you. They're claiming that they're arresting you under the California Penal Code, meaning they have authority to do so under the law, while they're abusing it and stalking you, having no authority under the actual law that remains legitimate, while they are abusing the law and engaging in stalking you in violation of it. And they're engaging in what is making up criminal charges, which is relevant to the kidnapping pursuant to criminal monitoring, and then lying about why it is that you were arrested, which is kidnapping by Jason Knighton after an assault and battery that I'm subject to, because that demon is hostile, as I documented him stalking with the people of the state, engaging in criminal summoning. His license plate is public information. Being on the sidewalk, documenting that as public property, all right, even in their alternate universe. So I'm showing you, not only am I not in violation of the actual law, the Ontario Police Department, they don't even have any authority when they're engaging in gang stalking in their alternate universe. I'll prosecute you in your alternate universe, and I'll prosecute you under the actual laws as you are masquerading as having authority under them. And under both realities, that where one, there's only one, but I'm speaking the demons, these are mentally ill people. And so the Ontario Police Department's disbanding is going to be bringing a lot of demons into reality, and the entity, the state, is going to witness that when the Ontario Police Department, this is supposed to be the king of, no, they're not. They're going to be literally publicly removed from position. They've been fired by Christ Jesus himself. They're being disbanded. Satan is fired. Satan has been engaged in what is obstruction of justice, and Jason Knighton attacks a woman. His partner Lester Keys aids him in that. They both steal my property, damage it, and then they engage in what is a kidnapping and claim that they have authority under the criminal penal code, stating that I'm interfering with an investigation. And the investigation was supposed to be a traffic stop. The traffic stop was no longer in progress, by the way. And the traffic stop is criminal summoning. It's criminal activity at the outset. I'm breaking down their whole criminal conduct, and the entity's doing this while the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking. That's the significance of the images that I captured, and it's been published for years. And the documentation showing the P.O.C. is the significance of what the entirety of the City of Ontario is engaging in concert with that demon, and the repeated demons that engaged in what is flying over my head by commercial planes. It is serving for the disbanding of the Ontario Police and that entity that committed kidnapping. And by the way, it's also letting you know regarding the environment where demons are engaging in criminal activity, surveillance, which is letting you know what you're subject to where you are at in the United States as well, because there's only one sun that's remaining over me all day long on one street. And now it's back at Euclid Avenue, and it's not going to be over any hotel at 1841 East G Street. That was targeting that I was subject to. That's another sex offense that's on the record, committed by a third-party innkeeper, not a private property and not a legitimate business, adding to the pattern of conduct of surveillance by the government and corrupt businesses. That's a federal RICO case. While these imbeciles engaged in stalking by plane, stalking by helicopters, stalking by fire department, stalking by police department, stalking by San Bernardino County, The entity that utilized San Bernardino County Behavioral Health to defame my character because these demons knew that I was documenting and thought that they were thinking ahead. No, they weren't. They were showing how they were targeting, not understanding that when I say you're going to federal prison and I speak on the authority of Christ Jesus, you are going to federal prison. And everything that you've done thinking that you're going to stop it is actually evidence that's going to be used against you to show the greater pattern of conduct. The entity that conspired at the outset to commit murder, defame my character, steal property that belongs to me, and then discard me. That is keeping against your will in a facility where you're being targeted, i.e. San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. The entity that's in defaming your character like you're a criminal, defaming your character as though you're mentally ill while they're criminally monitoring, targeting the whole time, which the Ontario International Airport proves while you're stalking via Southwest Airlines, while you're flying over me at Economy Inn at the mobile gas station where the fake sun, by the way, is present at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 7 in the morning when the entity's doing that. Flying over my head at grocery outlet, steps away, feet away from the Economy Inn where the fake sun is over my head at that grocery outlet at 12:53 in the afternoon, where who was stalking in that parking lot? Because they're obsessed with my vagina, following it as it walks into a grocery store. And the Ontario police are stalking in that same parking lot where the Ontario International Airport is stalking at that same venue. 7:15 in the morning, 7:17 in the morning till 12:53 in the afternoon. The fake sun's going to be at the OVITT Family Community Library at 12:53 p.m. And I've already shown you that because the fake sun is at the same time remaining over my head through that window of that staircase. And it's also over the West Valley Detention Center. And it's also over my head in the zenith at Economy Inn, as well as that parking lot at Grocery Outlet where the Ontario International Airport targets me very openly and obviously because they are not intelligent beings. They are demon-possessed beings who do not use reason and nor do they ration. They don't use any, so they don't rationalize. They engage in conduct and they engage in what is abusing someone and bullying them into silence. That's not working. And the demon-possessed do not pay attention. They do not learn. So they're engaging in this against the federal prosecutor that has a full, complete case. And I have a laundry list of people who shall go to federal prison as a matter of justice. Every moment that I spent kidnapped, the entity is going to federal prison for that. It's not going to be on a day-to-day basis, but I mean, if I was kidnapped and lost my liberty for any amount of time, it's going to be multiplied with regard to those demons that engage in it. And it includes corrupt businesses like Starbucks, where there is no sun at any point, nor at the same time over my head at Economy Inn, where it's also necessarily going to still be there to be over my head at 12:53 p.m. This is how you're analyzing, using the illusion, the mentally ill. They surround you with that illusion. You're going to prosecute them through that illusion that they use. That's also how you're witnessing the evidence of malice, the evidence of mental illness, psychopaths that share together in murdering people, share together in defaming people, share together in stealing from people, share together and bearing false witness to kidnap people. That's what Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields represent. That's what Starbucks and Ocean and Patty and Amelia, everybody kidnapping at Starbucks on July 5th, 4th, 2025 represent. That's what the Ontario Police, Alex Escobar, A. Quesada, and L. Edwards represent. Those demons are psychopaths, gang stalking, claiming that they're there because Ocean called them. Ocean doesn't have to call and tell them anything. L. Edwards is monitoring my vagina, stalking me even when I go to the grocery store as an entity, a department. That's the P.O.C. And don't you ever be deceived by it. They're going to federal prison for their P.O.C. Okay? It is currently 7:45 a.m. The fake sun is now over the Ontario Town Square. And at no point in the natural environment is the sun going to be over where I documented it, not just at that venue, but over my head at that venue and remaining over me at that venue where the government is targeting through the fire department, through San Bernardino County, through the Ontario Police Department, and through the Ontario International Airport in concert with the people of the state, not private citizens, those that are sharing in a targeting system in furtherance of committing murder. While this demon, Tracy Banks, could never be me, couldn't even speak or act like me, nor does she look like me. I don't look like no 60-some-odd-year-old woman. I don't have no wrinkles and cellulite. I don't have any dark circles on my face. I don't have any of those issues. I don't have gray hair. I don't wear fake weaves and whatnot. Okay, there's nothing alike. I don't care if we're blood related. This is a witch. She relies on witchcraft. She never looked like me. This is somebody that's engaging, nor does she act like me, but the entity was not deceived. This is an entity that was conspiring my murder so that Tracy Banks could step into my shoes and nobody would be none the wiser. And this is not happening. And nor does witchcraft, it's not going to result in that. And this is serving for where the entity utilizes witchcraft and you're witnessing what is the evidence of trying to murder someone else that they want to steal from, that they want to masquerade as. And this is what a whole police department, a city, a government, a state is engaged in. And they do it for profit. They do it for money. This is what the entity conspired to steal from me, kill me, and steal my money and property. okay, and tried to steal my identity in doing so. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison for her foolish, imbecilic co-defendants who stalked me, obviously in this manner, pointing right back to her. This is what she's been engaging in for years. She's going to federal prison, and so is Jason Eisenfeld. It's currently 7:47 a.m. I'm at 224 North Euclid Avenue, where the fake sun followed. That's letting you know what Starbucks is engaging in at 111 North Vineyard Avenue, as I'm documenting it on August 26, 2025. And August 25th, 2025, because there will be no sun. There is no natural environment, nor does any fake sun have anything to do with that light activity, which in and of itself is showing you that Starbucks is a domestic terrorist that is hostile to not only protecting women, violence against women, but any person that would be enforcing their rights. Starbucks is a threat to Americans. Starbucks is hostile to you enforcing your enforcing your constitutional rights and your human rights. They're hostile to that. This is why Ocean is engaging in kidnapping. All right, this Neanderthal that had the audacity to walk into that venue because she knew she's being prosecuted everywhere that I'm going. You engaged in kidnapping, be prepared. You're going to federal prison. You are going to federal prison, okay? There is no leaf blower that's going to outsound me. You're going to federal prison. You know who you are. You kidnapped at Woodside Senior Apartments. You kidnapped at Economy Inn. You kidnapped at OVITT Family Community Library. You kidnapped at Starbucks. You're going to federal prison, honey. You're getting locked up. It is currently 7:48 a.m. It is August 27, 2025. This is all right, the Ontario Downtown Luxury Apartments, which is again located at 320 North Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California. The entire apartment complex that also utilizes the parking garage where I've shown you impossible light activity fills the inside of it, where I've showed you the fake sun over my head at that parking garage, where the fake sun is right here over me while I'm looking at that same parking garage at 7:55 a.m. is where the people of the state are monitoring the evidence which is the ongoing conduct of the entity that is indeed engaged in surveillance. But this is what the entity does, and it's the same. Again, you're dealing with a bunch of animals. These are not normal people. They are actually mentally ill, and this is exposing the condition that needs to be known, and it's not going to be a secret. It's not a matter of you exercising your freedom of religion to not believe this or not believe that. This isn't a matter of belief. It's a matter of a federal prosecution, and it's also for your safety that you are aware of a population that's engaging in this criminal conduct, and it's committed in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. And it's a whole population that are in a specific condition that is serving for what is harming other people, okay? Murdering other people, defaming other people. A whole government system is surrounding it. 9LVE894 is engaging in it right now, stalking at the C Street turn circle under a whole fake sun that's not even supposed to be over here. It's supposed to be over 1841 East G Street. That's how it's over my head at 10:13 a.m., where the entity would like to suggest that they're not stalking as a police department, even though it's obvious, while they're using helicopter like they do every day and every night under a fake sun and an engineer light, okay? That's the P.O.C. I suggest you not touch my property. That's P.O.C. That's the people of the state that are engaging in what is sitting next to my property while they're monitoring. Just talking to a demon. It is currently 7:57 a.m. at 224 North Euclid Avenue. This is P.O.C. All right, what you'll see reflected in the images is stalking by an airport. This is relevant to the terrorist leader Alan D. WAPNER, as you're assigning a name to gang stalking throughout the city by the government in concert with the population. That population is the entity that's proven to be stalking in an environment revealing the crime scene. At the Ontario Town Square, I don't arrive until yesterday afternoon after remaining at the 1841 East G Street, where, remember, the Ontario Police Department, they don't engage in gang stalking, criminal summoning with the Ontario Fire and AMR till 11:30, 12:32 p.m. and 12:52 p.m. to be exact, is when the Ontario Police Department is stalking me by helicopter, where a fake sign is over my head at 1841 East G Street. This is where you'll see the images of homosexual women who are engaging in terrorism, stalking a woman whom they're obsessed with and also sexually obsessed with, whom they are gang stalking with regard to personal knowledge about me and about my vagina, about everything that I'm stating, everything that I'm documenting, whether I'm breathing, whether my toe is moving inside of my socks, how many times I'm blinking per second, and what it is that I'm doing on my devices. That's what stalking at Ontario Town Square, using a leaf blower, staring at their communication devices, walking their dog, and also stalking in commercial planes over the Ontario Town Square. Yesterday at after 1 p.m., I'm capturing the fake sun over my head at Metro 102, where Omnitrans is gang stalking using both the bus and the vehicles that those demon demon-possessed drivers, that's a threat to the public, by the way, while they're engaging in gang stalking, are surrounding me with that engineered environment. And that's where the Ontario police at the same Ontario Town Square, Ontario OVITT Family Community Library, engage in a psychological torture tactic, which is putting nothing other than people like Jason Knighton, Lester Keys, L. Edwards, A. Quesada, and Alex Escobar, etc., in federal prison for stalking under a fake sign where you can leave your vehicle with no man in the vehicle, or you can be inside of the vehicle however you want it. Mike Lorenz is done with law enforcement for stalking, for criminal surveillance, for being a sex offender, okay, of epic proportions. Pedophilia is associated with the Ontario Police Department. Okay, sex trafficking is associated with the Ontario Police Department. Witchcraft, Satanism associated with the Ontario Police Department, and criminal stalking, surveillance, federal stalking under Title 18 to be even more precise, Section 22618 subsections 1 and 2. And that's what's relevant with regard to the fake sign at the same entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library where the Ontario International Airport is stalking, proven evidence of what is a fake sign during the it's 8:08, that's at approximately 8:04 a.m., 8:05 a.m., and I don't even get here until after 1 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday. After 2 o'clock. Remember? And who's stalking in the path? A bunch of demons that claim that there's a technological failure. No, they're monitoring. They were monitoring the whole time while they put up signs talking about, oh, we can't access the desktops. These are demons that are engaging in criminal monitoring. This is what you need to learn. This is what I'm stating to you, because while you're witnessing me expose this, the prosecution is complete. By the time you get to a federal court, there's no controversy. And the entities, there's no controversy. The entity's been watching me prosecute the whole time. The federal government's been watching me prosecute the whole time regarding the veracity of what it is that I'm speaking, whether or not she's sane, whether or not she's committed the crimes that the entity accused me of. This is all criminal activity, and I'm going to get justice. But nonetheless, they've been watching me speak the truth of the entire time about what they know is real demons, what they know is real witchcraft, what they know is real demon possession, what they know is real targeting by an entity of so-called strangers on the surface who are demons who know exactly who it is they're targeting, which is also proven through a whole environment, which is demonic as well. The entity is engaging in what is the use of illusions, demonic, and the entity is watching me prosecute what typically takes out an ordinary target individual. There's no controversy in the federal court. You're talking about what is changing the landscape regarding what necessarily changes the laws, because American citizens are defamed and kidnapped under the laws that the entity abuses. That I'm showing you what the state of California did to try to steal from me, to try to murder me, to try to kidnap me, defame me in doing so. The laws are going to change based on surveillance and based on abuse by the government, not just a little random cult. The entity is stalking at the Ontario Town Square, where the fake sun's remaining at 1841 East G Street until after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, where I then am at the bus stop of 111 North Vineyard Avenue, where that Starbucks is at. And you're looking at that shaded drive-through window, where again, the day before, how is there any sort of light, radiant light bursting through that drive-through window? When you look at what's outside, and then what you're looking at what's inside on my video. Okay, those are demons. That's demonic. That's the evidence of targeting. That's where the entity is stalking using commercial planes like American Airlines. This is what I documented. And they're hovering on Hope Boulevard. They're hovering on Vineyard Avenue, and now they're flying over what is the location where criminal monitoring is underway by Alan D. WAPNER, the public officials that are engaging in what is targeting me. And they're engaging in, and they are thereby exposing a whole population. The city of Ontario, every gang stalking resident, everyone that lives in Ontario, everyone, regardless of status, the gang stalking immigrants, they're monitoring. Those that don't speak any English, guess what? They're monitoring. I don't care what race, what origin that they have, they're all monitoring. This is demonic. It's getting past all color lines, all racial lines. It's spiritual. And that's getting past the veneer. And this is the stupidity of the demons that don't know when to stop, because all they did was prove everything that I stated, which I don't need Satan's help in prosecuting, but Satan is such a fool. Satan is so psychopathic and delusional toward what is already a forfeited objective. You already forfeited it a long time ago, but the entity did not stop. That's proving my evidence. That's proving what they are and what they're doing. And there are no racial lines. There is no status whereby you are avoiding a prosecution or engagement in it. It has nothing to do with race, has nothing to do with age. How are you going to use those factors with regard to how you're prosecuting? Just like you would, or you're contributing to the delinquency of minors when you're gang stalking with children. You're engaging in a sex act with children. Oh, you like to do that with children? You're going to be treated as a sex offender that you are, including children in that. Just like you would with every other crime. Except this isn't every other crime. It's domestic terrorism and psychological torture. A sex crime. It is an egregiously violent sex crime committed by an entity, a population together obsessing over the genitalia of an American citizen that they're conspiring to murder. That's what the demon-possessed do. That's what Satan is doing amongst the city of Ontario, who was stalking at the Ontario Town Square at 8:05 a.m. You'll see the images. And remember, yesterday the fake sun is remaining in an entirely different location, which is not hovering over the 280 North Limit Apartments and still being over the 280 North Limit Apartments when I'm documenting the entity walking toward this same location after getting off the bus, capturing video of the fake sun moving west up Holt Boulevard. Oh, this is the absurdity of what the entity does. These are demons. They don't have brains. You're dealing with spirit. This spirit is evil. It's just out to murder. It's out to deceive. It's out to harm and psychologically torture. Now that is the demise of the demon possessed, because these are dummies. Like I said, don't be deceived, because Robert Luna is the head of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. That's a dummy. He's a dummy. Do not be deceived. They are all surrounded by this evidence. All of them, including the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department stalking in the same environment that the city of Ontario is, including San Diego County stalking in the same environment that the city of Ontario is, in other words, including Kern County stalking in the same environment that Ontario is. Okay, etc., 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 because it's all sitting on the record. When I say that it's a complete case, when I say that I have established what I understand are legally relevant terms, stalking there's a legal definition for it, and they are proven to be engaging in it, while I've shown you the specific environment, which is supernatural, meaning it's impossible that is naturally occurring, which is getting to the intent behind everything that's happening around me, relevant to a pattern of conduct, which is also letting you know that supernatural impossibility, it's demonic. These are demons. And this is a pattern of conduct amongst the demon-possessed that are engaged in a whole practice of witchcraft, sacrificing someone as though you're going to swap destinies. This is what this elderly, promiscuous person, Tracy Banks, engaged in. She's not a mother. She's a defendant, and I'm prosecuting her, just like every other psychopath whose name I don't know or name I do know. I use whatever I have against the entity, and I'm going to prosecute. And this is at the handiwork of a demon, a witch, Tracy Banks, and her sex partner, Jason Isaac Fields. They're both witches. And this is the solicitation while the government is stalking in planes. And the entity is exposing how they engage in it to its own demise. That's the entity that's stalking. That's Delta Airlines at 8:06 a.m. flying where the fake sun is over me, proving that Delta Airlines is stalking me. So that's exactly what's going on at 1841 East G Street, where they're flying behind Everhome Suites, where you're literally beside the airport as though you're taking. It's the stupidest thing ever. You can look at but everything that the entity is doing is stupid, because I've broken it down for you. And if you are aware of the facts, the reason why I describe the things that I do is because it's absurd. It's the absence of logic. It's the absence of common sense. It's the absence of appearing as anything other than clearly targeting, and they're doing it in an obvious manner, which makes it a very easy case. When you're getting beyond what is the work of establishing the pattern of conduct, that is a body of evidence showing you how the targeting environment is in fact an environment that is evidence of targeting. Okay, that takes an amount of time. That amount of time has passed as of 2018. The work is done. So now I'm showing you, how are you looking at this? Well, you're looking at it with common sense. Anybody, I'm not telling you how to look at anything. You can look at it with your plain view, and I cannot say a word, and you will see it yourself. You'll see it yourself. The sun is not going to be over the same address like it was yesterday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. The sun's not going to be at the same address. Common sense. Not only that, who's present in that environment? Oh, the demons intentionally chose to put an Ontario Police Department vehicle in my path where the fake sun is present. That's relevant to psychological torture. Everything that I was analyzing for you legally and logically is relevant. These are demons that are stalking with impossible light. Doing so. So let me show you this demon's license plate. Stalking like a psychopath, driving in circles. That's mental illness. That's shared by the Ontario International Airport, Alan D. WAPNER, Mike LORENZ. They're mentally ill while demons are driving around in circles, is what the demons do. And they're trying to flee because they don't want to be documented. A whole entity is documented. A whole entity driving around in circles while impossible lights swirling all around. And you know what that's about? Demons that are psychopaths. That makes people who are mentally ill. The psychopathic spirits that they have, they're mentally ill. That's getting to their behavior. Their behavior is also criminal. This is serving for the diagnosis and the criminal conviction for those that conspire the murder of American citizens. And they try to project mental illness on that innocent targeted individual. This is what is so despicable about the demon possessed, and they're going to be prosecuted for it. Okay, so the entity engages in that, and these are the cowards that then flee. This is an entity that's leaving a trail of defendants by specific name and company. Okay, this is how you know what FedEx is doing, what Vactor is doing. This is how you know what Ramada by Wyndham is doing. This is how you know what Everhome Suites is doing. This is how you know what KFC, Sheraton, Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out, all those companies, they're gang stalking just like these demons are under a fake sun. And this is what I told you before I went to 1841 East G Street. This is what I told you before I relocated back to San Bernardino County from Los Angeles. When I am in 2024 resigning from my job because this psychotic pattern of conduct is targeting me in the workplace, stalking me by helicopters and planes, commercial and smaller government planes. The entity is doing so while a fake sun remained over me at work from all hours of the office day. That's from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. And that's on the record, documented. The entity is keeping the fake sign over 1841 East G Street during the same hours. This is a very straightforward prosecution, like I stated. It's merely a formality once it's getting into a federal court, and it is. And people like L. Edwards and A. Quesada and Alex Escobar, amongst many others who are stalking under a fake sun in furtherance of murdering me as a police department, doing so as an entity, stalking and psychologically torturing, leaving your police vehicle and engaging what is presence by any means in that environment, especially while you're sitting around surveying and listening to me expose you and call you names that you actually are, and you're hostile as a psychopath because of that. Because it's being exposed, because you're delusional, thinking that you're intelligent and you never were, and somebody that you thought that you were going to overpower and bully and intimidate is bullying you with evidence, and so you're hostile, so you fly over me for 20 minutes and I put that all over the internet? You're going to federal prison, okay? The entities engaged in this conduct as a bunch of delusional psychopaths, and they're stalking with commercial planes. So the commercial vehicle that you hear beeping in the background, stalking in the path, just like Vactor was in the middle of the street of G Street yesterday, and just like Amazon Prime was stalking in the middle of the street using a method of flashing of light. This is the outward demonstration of the mental illness of those that are engaging in the system of gang stalking. It's demonic. It's also relevant to surveillance on communication devices in the environment. It affects the communication devices that they are criminally keeping under surveillance, and it is facilitation of that. The entity is doing so while engaging in surveillance inside of the vehicle. So this is a demon that's engaging in that P.O.C. And leaving what is masonry concrete, license 552034. All right, DMC is a corrupt company monitoring. You'll see the fake sign over me. DMC's, the company is stalking in the same way that when you go to an establishment, the fake sign over you, that establishment is stalking. All right, and that's getting to the malice of the entity that's gang stalking, utilizing witchcraft, because the fake sun, the engineer light, is the practice of witchcraft, as I've proven it through tangible evidence. And you're also going to prosecute the entities conspiring your murder while gang stalking you through businesses such as DMC Concrete. That's the entity that's pacing around while this demon paces by parking the vehicle, Impossible Light moving all over the walls. And they're doing that as I was documenting another coward that was doing the same thing and then flees because that demon is listening to every word. They're also the ones that are monitoring my vagina with that same knowledge, that same obsession. Okay, and they're doing so, and DMC is a sex offender as well, engaging what is using a commercial vehicle, and the impunity of the entity that DMC exhibits. Fill in the company name. It's the same thing with Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, engaging in the violence that you see on video. Terrorizing and threatening an American citizen, use it with that violence that you see on video. This is the entity that's also at the same time engaging in what is obsession with my vagina. These are, again, violent sex offenders who are bloodthirsty, okay? This is the entity that's conspiring murder of the person that they're psychologically torturing. This is what American citizens suffer in silence. And DMC Concrete represents a company that's acting in furtherance of that, intentionally and knowingly, was created for the malicious purpose of the government to gang stalk. Understand what the United States is engaged in. Surveillance, okay? It is currently, by the way, 8:20 a.m., and the fake sun is over the Ontario Town Square. And yesterday, during the 2 p.m. hour, this is where the Ontario Police Department is gang stalking by leaving their vehicle in my path while they're tracking your steps. Very foolish conduct. Like I said, with the P.O.C., what you are typically doing is you're documenting, and then you're looking back because you're going to observe the pattern of conduct in the aggregate. Okay, so as I document the pattern of conduct, then you're looking back. Now you're seeing what that is. Now you see what that is. Now you see what I'm talking about. Now you see the pattern. That's the significance of the evidence that you you document. That we're well beyond that. So now you're paying attention. Those of you that are paying attention, the entity is engaging in conduct, and we are at the point now you're looking at me exposing to you while I'm prosecuting, and you are caught up in your understanding already, and you're to the point to where you're recognizing when I'm stating I don't have to lie and make up anything. You're witnessing me prosecute a bunch of demons, call them out, and they're psychopaths engaging in more of the same while you're already surrounded with evidence. There's no mystery here. There are no more questions. There's no exception. Millions of people together know who I am. Celebrities in the state of California gang stalking me. Politicians, public officials in California gang stalking me. Okay, the impoverished population where they should be concerned with where can they go to take a shower and get that odor off of themselves, but they're gang stalking me, okay? Not concerned about where they're going to sleep, but they're concerned with gang stalking me. That's because it's a spirit. It's a spirit. Satan has them consumed with obsession with me rather than their own well-being. And that's the same with the government that's facing federal prison, disbanding, public exposure, removal from office, etc. You fill in the blank, because all the bad things are going to happen to them, and they're still consumed with me because it's a spirit. Okay, this is serving for what is understanding and recognizing mental illness. When now you're surrounded with the evidence, you're not engaging in anything in any stealth manner. It's not surreptitious. It's not sneaky. It's not even cunning. It's not even intelligent, by the way. But not even that. Everybody's looking at you now, and nobody is fooled. Nobody that is actually of a sound mind and is not already inherently biased, okay? Because I have proven the case. So I'm not looking for friends to just be on my side and just support me regardless of what I'm stating. I don't need any support. I don't care if one person didn't believe. This is a warning. So if you don't take heed to the warning, that's your choice. Just like it's your choice whether you want to accept Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior. It's a free gift of salvation. That's your choice. There are consequences for every choice that you make. In the same way, the entity that's gang stalking, they were warned. It's a choice, and there's a consequence. And it's not going to be based on whether you want to believe it or not. It's going to be based on evidence. And evidence is what you use to prosecute, and I'm getting justice, so you're going to witness that as well. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and the entity is doing so while you are in real time already aware of the body of evidence. So now I can sit through and tell you what in real time what these demons are doing and what they intend to do, what they're not even doing. They're delusional and continuously engaging in it because you're all watching in real time, and there's no mystery. There's no question regarding my credibility, regarding what it is that I'm telling you, what I've been telling you, what they've already done before, and then what they're doing in real time, like stalking over the Ontario Town Square using planes. When you just saw yesterday, the fake sun is still over me on 1841 East G Street until after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Who does that? Okay? The entity that's more addicted, the entity that's more obsessed and delusional than they are rational, reasonable beings, because you already know that they're targeting me. And what's so pathetic? Who is engaging in what is landscaping under the guise of it's all about Erica Spencer? That's pathetic. That's a spirit. That is Satan that's consumed with me, using every person that realizes that they are pathetic. Don't be mad at me because of what you are and what you're doing, because of the reality of that. It's pathetic to use a whole business. You put all that money investing in a business, it's all about Erica Spencer. That's exactly what it's about in the specific environment. You're driving around in a vehicle with that business name on it, and you're a whole psychopath representing mental illness through that business name. Don't be mad at me because of what you're doing and what you are. And you're using that whole business, all that money invested, all those shareholders and all those owners, and it's all about Erica Spencer. You embarrassed yourself. You're the one that's pathetic. You're the one that is serving to expose yourself, because you could have sat down. You see that evidence. You see what I'm documenting every day, and you jump in like a fool to have yourself exposed. You're the idiot, not me. You're the fool, not me. You're the demon. You are the inferior creature, not me. That's your fault. That's you. That's on you. And I'm going to prosecute you as well. I'm not just embarrassing you. I'm going to prosecute you. All right. It's currently 8:25 a.m. The entity is keeping the fake sign, and that's relevant to the images you'll see on the website. DMC concrete is stalking in the path with a method of flashing light. That's the pattern that you're recognizing. This is what Vactor was doing in the middle of the street at 1841 East G Street, doing so with the Ontario International Airport and FedEx. That was mental illness while you saw FedEx operating a vehicle, maintaining relevant positioning and alignment to me across the street at Everhome Suites. Look at the images and listen to the podcast. That's what I'm describing right now. And there is a body of evidence showing FedEx as a company that I could prosecute literally by itself, a body of evidence of FedEx targeting me over the years. The entity is engaging in that, and while they engage in gang stalking, it's the outward demonstration of mental illness. This is literally evidence to diagnose that demon-possessed gang stalking driver of the FedEx vehicle, to prosecute the company, and to prosecute that demon that was operating that vehicle yesterday. Under the fake sun, it's 8:26 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, documentation of Ontario Wi-Fi federal stalking ongoing. And I want to be clear, the entity is also engaged in what is relevant to another form of discrimination based on the content of what it is that I'm viewing. I've documented the entity terrorizing me in relevant position based on the content that I'm looking at on the internet while it's engaging in what is monitoring online, surveillance online. Also with regard to hostility pertaining to the subject matter. For example, people going to federal prison for conspiring and engaging in what is targeting, kidnapping children, stealing property from them, having affairs with one another and lying in court, etc. I've documented these things based on the content of what it is that I view. The entity is also monitoring, and it's also relevant to when I'm viewing what would be generally referred to as religious content. As I watch things pursuant to what is edifying my spirit about my Lord Jesus Christ, the entity interferes with what is my constitutional right, freedom of speech, of expression. And engaging in what is monitoring on the Ontario Wi-Fi, this is where this is underway, is pursuant to the criminal pattern of conduct of gang stalking. But I also want to make sure that that is clear. This is the entity that's going to be prosecuted for that umbrella of what is criminal monitoring and all the violations inherent to it. The entity is also engaging in targeting me because I view content pursuant to my Lord and Savior Christ Jesus. The entity, these are demons and they're hostile to Jesus, and they're also being prosecuted by him. Okay, and while I view content that is edifying to that nature, this is what the entity is monitoring my content on. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's 8:38 a.m. I want to make sure I include that P.O.C. Alrighty, that's the fake sun, and that is stalking by the Ontario Police, who did the same thing at 12:32 p.m. That is 12:52 p.m. at 1841 East G Street, flying over my head in concert with San Bernardino County, targeting with the Ontario Fire Department. And targeting is the pattern of conduct. It's currently 9:15 a.m. and doing so while I'm conversing with the people of the state, all right? While they're monitoring me, and the entity engages in that method of psychological torture while you're being gang stalked by the people who are in your presence, in concert with the gang stalking police department, okay? The entity is doing so pursuant to what is the conspiracy to murder. So they're stalking in a helicopter, engaging in what is ongoing documented harassment and domestic terrorism, psychological torture. That's a significance. And they are literally engaging in the elements of monitoring. They are crossing path in a helicopter. They're creating audible activity in doing so. They're doing it in the engineer light, in concert with the demons that are surrounding on the grounds. And that is including on the roads and the highways under a fake sun that's nowhere over 1841 East G Street, where I documented that fake sun over me. Remember, at 10:13 a.m., the entity is both over the Ontario Town Square, stalking in helicopter on August 21st, 2025, flying in circles over me, targeting me. There's no sun that's going to be over 1841 East G Street over my room, where I'm documenting room 326. All right, facing the direction south. This is the entity that is stalking, that is proven to be stalking, and this is Mike Lorenz's open declaration of being a domestic terrorist leader, an open declaration of being a violent sex offender, an open declaration of co-conspiring to murder with Tracy Banks, with the people of the state, stealing property through gang stalking of a corrupt government, including the Ontario Police Department. This is Mike Lorenz's open declaration, and it is going to be at the forefront of the prosecution of the state of California. Engaging in stalking by helicopter is the most foolish thing that this police department can still do, and that's because they are severely mentally ill. And the mental illness of the entity that is stalking as a police department is at the forefront of the prosecution of that entirety of that entity. It is currently 9:17, and the entity's not going anywhere in helicopter. That's also evidence of stalking. The entity sounding helicopter activity while they're lingering, stalking me. That's pacing back and forth. The entity is sounding helicopter activity while the demons are monitoring in concert, okay? Doing so with the demon-possessed who are engaging what is presence in my path, talking about good morning, having a chit-chat with you. They're monitoring. You don't have any friends when you're in the specific environment. That's exactly what Tracy Banks represents. You don't have any family. That's what Jason Isaac Fields represents. You don't have any friends. The entity's engaging in what is targeting you with the gang stalkers who are engaging in what is a pattern of kidnapping. All right, this is P.O.C. The entity that was gang stalking at 731 South Euclid Avenue, the 7-Eleven, this is the same department stalking in helicopter the next morning. This is P.O.C. They're going to federal prison. That was a white woman and a white male stalking with the gang stalking immigrants in this country, showing the domestic enemy that they are to the United States. The Ontario gang stalking as an American citizen and they don't have a disdain for the Constitution and engage in what is lawful conduct. Their disdain is for being exposed for criminal activity that they are showing they fully intend to continue. But they're not going to, and they're going to be disbanded. And every gang stalker of the Ontario Police that have engaged in stalking me in furtherance of murder, bearing weapons and a badge and doing so, they're going to federal prison. This is 224 North Euclid Avenue. That's 215 E.C. Street, where the Ontario Police are stalking after 2 p.m. after the fake sun is remaining yesterday over 1841 East G Street. Ontario Fire Department is stalking. FedEx is stalking. Vector is stalking. Amazon Prime is stalking. The entity is stalking by establishment. Sheraton, 111 North Vineyard Avenue. Starbucks is stalking while the fake sun is remaining over me off of G Street and Vineyard. And this morning, before what is even 8 a.m., the entity is keeping the fake sun over the Ontario Town Square, where the Ontario Police Department are demon-possessed gang stalkers, doing so in furtherance of murder, gang stalking and criminally defaming with San Bernardino County, Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, the entity that's engaging in what is kidnapping as an entity in furtherance of what is trying to manufacture mental illness, and the entity is going to be assigned actual mental illness while they're prosecuted. This is P.O.C. All right? This is evidence of not only in the environment, but by the maintenance of what is helicopter activity. This is the entity that engages in that, and that's what they were doing at 1841 East G Street yesterday, stalking, while monitoring the evidence and engaging in what is more stalking. And this is what is putting a wealth of people in federal prison. All right, that's POC. This is the entity that's targeting, as I'm documenting license plates on the podcast, as I'm documenting Wells Fargo, the Ontario Downtown Luxury Apartments, the 280 North Lemon Apartments, Metro 102 Apartments, Omnitrans, the Mule Cart. They're all gang stalking. This is all the POC. The entity is maintaining the fake sun in an environment where you're recognizing the POC. So I want to be clear, Ramada by Wyndham is a sex offender, a gang stalking third-party innkeeper, and that's a federal RICO case against the people of the state that are monitoring with the government that has a bunch of imbeciles that provide criminal evidence against that entire entity because they don't understand how a criminal conspiracy that is already proven is going to be prosecuted in a federal court. This is POC. It is 9:20 a.m. where the fake sun followed from Economy Inn this morning, followed on Omnitrans on Route 83, followed yesterday from what is Vineyard Avenue and G Street. And that's Ontario Police that are following, by the way, that is stalking and surveillance and psychological torture using helicopters, which the entity utilizes to engage in what is psychological torture, a program, an unabated program of psychological torture. This is demonic also, POC. This is demonic pacing. This is what the people of the state are doing as a group, and they're flying beside the fake sun. This is what they were doing at 12 in the afternoon, flying beside the fake sun. You're looking at the body of evidence of demon possession exhibited by Mike Lorenz, conspiring with Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, conspiring to steal from an American citizen. Gang stalking an American citizen will never result in the diagnosis of mental illness. That's not the practice of medicine. It is the corrupt practices of a targeting entity, and that entity is going to result in what is the disbanding of the Ontario Police Department, who are exhibiting severe mental illness, while not only gang stalking, but doing so while the world is watching how domestic terrorism is executed in the United States. This is criminal monitoring as well. All right, they're all doing so, and the Ontario Police Department is serving to prosecute its own co-defendants. These are the imbeciles that are demon-possessed gang stalkers. POC. The fake sun's still here, as I documented August 17th, after 6 p.m. at the Ontario Town Square. The fake sun's remaining yesterday, less than 24 hours ago, over me. In the same manner, the fake sun's over me in a different location at 1841 East D Street. The Ontario Police are flying next to the fake sun, both at 9 o'clock in the morning and at what is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They're stalking me under a fake sun. They're demons. All right, the video documentation that you just listened to is the entity that's engaging in gang stalking with the people of the state, in whose presence I am, who are sharing in the pattern of conduct. That is, again, Robert Rivera and his third-party co-defendant. His name is Carlos. It's an African-American male going by the name of Carlos. I don't know if that's an alias or not, but this is a demon that I've documented before. Gang stalking inside of the library, monitoring my vagina, engaging in surveillance outside of the women's restroom, and also gang stalking as a sex offender under the fake sun at 9 in the morning, where the Ontario Police just engaged in what is flying over my head. License 39172F3. 9CZM 524, 8PRX 672, 7HZD 240. Wells Fargo shares in that criminal monitoring that I just documented. They're gang stalking as an establishment. They're co-conspiring in the murder of an American citizen that they are stalking, monitoring together. 43582 is a white van, stalking with impossible light activity, molesting my person, sharing in that criminal pattern of conduct under a fake sun with that Ontario Police Department. 9TID 849. And the entity is that's another license plate. The entity is keeping the fake sun over me at 1841 East Street. That's what you see. The entity is flying next to the fake sun like it is hours from now. 12:32 p.m. and 12:52 p.m. The fake sun is where the Ontario police are flying next to it while it's over my head in an entirely different location. That's 1841 East G Street, TEENONI. And that's the entity that does so pursuant to the pattern of conduct where the people of the state, including Robert Rivera, gang stalking me, and doing so while having a conversation, all that conversation, everything, while they're laughing and coking and doing, how are you doing? You having a good day? Talking about nothingness. It's all audible activity while they're monitoring you with the Ontario police. This is the significance of your family gang stalking you. This is the significance of your fake friends gang stalking you. This is the significance of your co-workers gang stalking you. Just like I documented Speaker Companies Incorporated, there is no statute of limitations of going to federal prison while the Ontario police breaks down the criminal conduct that they were engaging in while they were the employer where I was subject to this pattern of conduct. They're going to federal prison, and this is what the demon possessed forget while they're engaging in gang stalking me second by second. Maria Solis Alvarez, Carla Lopez, Selena Robledo, Juan Carlos, they're going to federal prison. You're gang stalking in the workplace while you're interfering with a liberty right so that somebody, a high school graduate and a hypersexual elderly woman can sit in a fake court hearing about property that belongs to me while she's a whole psychopath conspiring the death of her own daughter, keeping a secret conservatorship, and her sex partner maintaining a fraudulent marriage to me so that she can sit in that courtroom and lie and state that I cannot take care of myself, I can't even work, I can't maintain employment, and that is the reason why she should have exercise of control over property that nobody even told me belongs to me in the first place. And it's the criminal conduct of a court that's stalking me by the Ontario Police Department, who know very well that they're gang stalking me and relying on the fraudulent conduct of Tracy Banks, 6EBE494, 8SWD760, and that is not grave disability either under the Welfare and Institutions Code. That's not mental illness whatsoever. Neither are you even going to get to that point in any analysis because the entity is targeting at the outset, which is what the Ontario Police Department, which is the City of Ontario, which is the state of California, the government, that's engaging in what is targeting through criminal monitoring, surveillance, and then masquerading in a courtroom. Everybody that participated is going to federal prison. All right, that's what's relevant when the entity is gang stalking you in the workplace and then claiming that you can't hold a job because they're threatening your life in the workplace while you're subject to what the Ontario police are doing at the Ontario Town Square. That's what LAPD is doing in the workplace. And this is why Speaker Companies Incorporated hired me to keep me under surveillance, to psychologically torture me, to harass and terrorize, just like the Ontario police are showing, because this is exactly what's already on the record, what LAPD is doing in the same environment. It's impossible, but at work, I captured that impossibility because at the exact same time, the LAPD, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, are gang stalking me by helicopter under the fake sun at 1810 North Alvarado Street when I'm in my office under the fake sun. And so is the gang stalkers using helicopter all day, all night, all right, while the entity's engaging in that. ARCO is stalking, license plate 6KDM299 is sex offender molesting, BHV015A, sex offender molesting. That's a Baja, California, Mexico plate. Gang stalking immigrants are being deported. License 7ZIX172. Molesting, Ontario Police. License 4UDB915. Molesting, stalking with the Ontario Police. And ARCO at 434 North Euclid Avenue. This is what the entity does when you prove that they're stalking. And Tracy Banks is going to federal prison for choosing a co-defendant that lacks self-control and any strategy with regard to federal court. She has no defense, and neither does the Ontario Police. 9TIH520, stalking under a fake sun. And this is what the entity is relying on. That's not ever going to establish mental illness on the part of any American citizen. Certainly not the demons that are gang stalking in Ontario, California. ARCO is gang stalking, and I'm subject to a massive sex offense while a truck drives on Euclid Avenue, where the fake sun is now over me across the street from Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, but it's supposed to be remaining over 111 North Vineyard Avenue at what is 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This is where the entity is gang stalking as a population. 8HBY687, this represents the population that sat in a courtroom, solicited by Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, to lie on my name, 6PXR241. Let me show you Ontario police that are stalking under the fake sun over this intersection while they're stalking on the roads and the highways. This is evidence of the Ontario police following City of Ontario's gang stalking. That dumpster truck is light activity relevant positioning. That's the entity that's stalking in the path, and so is Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue. Remember, California Highway Patrol is gang stalking, filling up their gas tank at 6 o'clock in the morning at 506 North Euclid Avenue. California Highway Patrol is another corrupt law enforcement agency gang stalking in the city of Ontario. They're also gang stalking on the roads and highways in Azusa, California under the fake sun in 2024, August of 2024, by the way. Doing so while I am staying at the Hilton, gang stalking at the Pomona Starbucks off of Temple. The entity is gang stalking while I'm on the roads and the highways, on the freeways, and the entity is keeping the fake sun. And the Ontario police are stalking literally as I'm going from Ontario Town Square to what is the Chevron, and replete with what is the fake sun following over me while the Ontario police are stalking from place to place. You are also aware that they're gang stalking under a fake sun that yesterday is remaining over 1841 East G Street. And they're engaging in the same conduct flying next to a fake sun at 12:32 in the afternoon and 12:52 in the afternoon. And this is what the Ontario Police Department engaged in so that a fake conservatorship and a fraudulent marriage can be used to defame my character, while the criminal activity of the gang stalkers, Ontario Police in San Bernardino County, can be used to defame my character. And for that, every gang stalking police officer is going to federal prison. They shared in the conspiracy to murder. They shared in the conspiracy to murder in order to steal, and they're doing so with knowledge of the documentation. And then you have the Ontario Police engaging in more terrorism as I expose that and publish it via my podcast. This is the entity that is mentally ill, lacking any forethought regarding what you're going to do in federal court. That's that maniacal psychopath that lacks self-control, that's also bloodthirsty, that would also engage in what is murdering me at a moment's pause while they're engaging in what is repeating that same obvious criminal conduct of targeting, because I'm speaking about the facts that they don't like exposed, but that's not going to stop me speaking at all. The entity is engaging in this. And by the way, impossible light on the ground, gang stalking, license plate 6GLU515. The entity is engaging in this while the Ontario police fly over my head, and this is what the entity does to ordinary target individuals. Gang stalking and targeting, no demon is bullying me. No demon is either going to silence me, and they certainly aren't going to steal my money, and you definitely aren't kidnapping and staying out of federal prison. Mike LORENZ is done with law enforcement, and this is again his declaration. You heard that helicopter activity? I'm at 434 North Vineyard Avenue. The entity is flying over my head. 507 North Euclid Avenue at 9 o'clock in the morning. The sun is still present. At 7:15 is when Ocean is engaging in kidnapping with the Ontario Police on July 4, 2025. There's no sun that's going to be in alignment or over the same street 2 hours later, number one. Number two, there's no sun that's going to be here when it's remaining over yesterday, over 1841 East G Street. Number three, there's no sun that would be at Starbucks ever, or at the Chevron, or across the street at the ARCO, or remaining over me under any circumstances, where also the entity is engaged in a pattern, the hallmark of stalking in helicopter, harassing in helicopter, with the intent to obstruct justice as well, while on this day in 2025, the entity's keeping the fake sun over me while I'm staying at 9750 Key Point Road in Hesperia, California, where the entity kept the fake sun, as I documented, from sunrise, the 6 a.m., 7 a.m. hour until sunset, and keeping it in alignment to me where my room is located, in conformity to a pattern of conduct. That's exactly what you see at 1841 East G Street under a fake sun. That's exactly what you see when I am remaining at the OVITT Family Community Library. That's exactly what you see when I am at Woodside Senior Apartments, where Tracy Banks resides as a gang stalker. And a co-conspirator to murder with the Ontario Police. That's exactly what you see at Alvarado Gardens, where I am working and living, where the Los Angeles Police Department was targeting, just like the LAPD are in LA. In the same manner, they're sharing that pattern of conduct. And now, while I speak about that, that's exactly what my example is regarding what is putting Tracy Banks and demons like Jason Isaac Fields and the co-conspirators to defaming my character. Jason Knighton is going to federal prison for kidnapping in furtherance of theft and murder. Lester Keys is going to federal prison for kidnapping in furtherance of theft and murder. S. Patty is going to federal prison for kidnapping in furtherance of theft and murder. So is A. Morris and Corporal Kim going to federal prison for kidnapping in furtherance of theft and murder, committed as an entity, as a government, as a corrupt operation of targeting and abusing law enforcement as though they're engaging in anything remotely having anything to do with other than what is the clear stalking by the Ontario Police right now. And the entity that doesn't have any control, that's exactly the same impunity and disregard for the law that S. Patty, Jason Knighton, Lester Keys, Corporal Kemp, A. Morris exhibit when they engaged in kidnapping me, in clear violation of all of the laws that actually exist, that they don't have authority under, engaging in surveillance. And also, while I clearly encounter them and ask them, what are you touching me for? What are you here for? What are you arresting for? What warrant do you have? They were clear. They're not ignorantly engaging in this pattern of conduct. And they do so in furtherance of murder and kidnapping in order to steal. And they're doing so as demons at that, in a very clearly identified environment. In LAPD, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles Fire Department, Los Angeles County Fire share that pattern of conduct in Los Angeles, where the entity interfered with my right to work, to employment, And what the entity is relying on as a basis to defame, oh, no, 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 no. The entity was targeting, just like the Ontario Police and Ontario International Airport are right now, at 506 North Euclid Avenue, okay? Where the mentally ill are stalking while they open their front door, 7EIN086, while the entity is stalking with the Ontario International Airport, all right? An elderly, a homosexual, wrinkly face, demon-possessed, stalking with impossible light while opening and closing the door, okay? License 6GLU515, pacing into to the same venue where they're stalking inside of a teeny tiny little Chevron market. These are the demon-possessed, the living dead. Sex offenders obsessed over my vagina as well. This is P.O.C. 506 North Euclid Avenue, the Ontario Police following to that venue. Okay, this is what Robert Rivera and his gang stalking co-defendant, Carlos is supposedly his name. All these demons are inside of what is Chevron, engaging what is that federal RICO case. This is POC, and the Ontario Police are gang stalking with Chevron. The Ontario Police are gang stalking with the demons inside, shopping at Chevron as a means of maintaining the elements of monitoring. After they engage in the sex offense of molesting with impossible light, and then they walk pacing all around, picking up merchandise and then purchasing it. That's the POC, and that's what the LAPD and Tracy Banks is engaging in, what Jason Isaac Fields is relying on while they're defaming my character, stealing my property, and paying demons like the Ontario Police Department to keep me under surveillance, to engage in kidnapping me, to defame my character with San Bernardino County, and then use that very evidence in order to defame and steal from me and establish, manufacture mental illness, that is, while the entity is exhibiting mental illness by stalking in a helicopter, being demons under a fake sun amongst impossible light. Engaging in this as a whole society, okay? Practicing what is massive witchcraft, speaking to what is public corruption. It's currently 9:36 a.m. That's the pattern of conduct, and there's no coincidence while I'm documenting that, and the entity is engaging in it. And these are mentally ill demons who are maintaining conversation. They're engaged in gang stalking at the same time. They're exhibiting severe malice. This is what is committed in furtherance of murder and kidnapping American citizens every day, and this is why they're going to federal prison. This is Ocean that calls the Ontario Police and then engages in kidnapping. All right, that same disregard, that same psychopathic delusional behavior, that's POC. All right, this is the mentally ill, the demon-possessed that are gang stalking every day in California. Sex offenders stalking in bathrooms, sex offenders stalking together as a population, demons that are pacing and making purchases. That's federal RICO, okay? POC, that's Henry. Yeah, Henry's gang stalking as the clerk at the Chevron, and that's Chevron that's engaging in criminal surveillance in the United States. It is currently 9:37 a.m. POC. Okay, recall that this is the basis of civil and criminal prosecution. You're going to drain the pockets of corrupt companies like Starbucks, like Chevron, who are profiting from gang stalking. The demons are stalking in the venue, coming in and making a purchase that's going to be utilized as an admission to targeting. And it's criminal activity while they're engaging in state surveillance. Literally, the elements of monitoring are underway. And you don't have anything but providence while literally the gang stalkers are flying and stalking in helicopter at the venue under the fake sun. And then the demons are just stalking inside of the store and making purchases. That's the federal RICO case. This is, again, the entity that is trafficking children and doing so under the guise of maintaining a laundromat, and they're engaging in what is sexual activity with minor children in the back of that laundromat. The entity that is, again, funneling drugs into the United States and doing it under masquerading as a business maintaining what is some sort of funeral parlor, all right, where they're trafficking drugs internationally. This is what the entity is doing while they're gang stalking, engaging in federal group stalking, monitoring criminal surveillance under the guise of what is supposed to appear as legitimate business, and it's coexisting with what is gang stalking. With the police that just engage in criminal activity, which is going to be used against Chevron, who is not an innocent victim. That's why when I'm purchasing items here, they're gang stalking me at 5 o'clock in the evening while that fake sun is still here. They're gang stalking with the demons that are filling up gas tanks, molesting me with impossible light. That's psychological torture, sexual violence, ongoing terrorism that Chevron is sponsoring. The entity is engaging in that while they are sharing in that pattern of conduct with the Ontario Police Department. All right, that's malice. And you're looking at a bunch of demons having a conversation while they are facing that inevitable demise. That's the entity that's engaging in what is harassing you while they're targeting. All right, this is POC. License plate 9LQ 565, 9LQC 565. This is POC. It is currently 9:39 a.m. All right, license 8ZTG625, filling up the gas stalls. They're all monitoring, and I'll show you the fake sun over me at 506 North Euclid Avenue, where targeting is identified through not only the specific environment. This is the fake sun. This is engineer light manifesting in the shade. License plate 9KBM468. You are also recognizing targeting by the entity that engages in the hallmark of stalking, in helicopter, okay? The Ontario Police Department's criminal activity is a hallmark for identifying the P.O.C. And I've documented that at the outset. This is why I'm going from city to city and county to county, and the entity is engaging under a fake sun stalking by helicopter, which is what the Ontario Police Department has done for years, and what is a relatively small city, and they're engaging in what is stalking throughout that city everywhere that I'm going. When I'm going from one place to another, the fake sun goes from one place to another. And by the way, big picture is that the fake sun is still on the same street that it was at 7 o'clock in the morning. It is 9:42 a.m. and the fake sun is not only at the same location that it's at in the middle of the afternoon. Southwest Airlines is gang stalking by flying over my head on this same Euclid Avenue where the fake sun is still over me, and this is after 5 p.m. I just documented that days ago. The entities engage on specifically Friday. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, that's the fake sun remaining over me in alignment to me on the same street. The big picture is that the entities keeping the fake sun over me on this day and on this same day in 2024 in Hesperia, where San Bernardino County is gang stalking, and doing so while I am documenting the pattern of conduct is relevant to that which is committed in furtherance of murder and with impunity and malice. The entity that's being exposed for stalking me in the workplace does not help all the people that are going to federal prison: Maria Solis Alvarez, Selena Robledo, Carlo Lopez, Juan Carlos, you have the Kimberly Fletcher, the demons that are gang stalking of the corporate office, monitoring with LAPD, who use the helicopter to gang stalk just like Ontario police are in the same exact specific environment. There's no sun that's going to be over my office in LA at the same time of year, where the entity, by the way, is keeping the fake sun on one street. And they engage in a grand departure from that, keeping it over me as I'm documenting at 1841 East G Street. The entity that does not have any defense. The entity that is doing so in front of the federal government. The entity that is doing so in furtherance of murder and kidnapping, which is what Lester Keys, Jason Knighton, S. Patty, Edwards, the entity that's kidnapping as a corrupt police department, that's what they're doing. They're gang stalking. And they engaged in kidnapping while gang stalking. And they're doing so while a real-time ongoing record is being maintained regarding who shall go to federal prison and for what. License EF71T26, paper 7KRX 529, demons making purchases at corrupt businesses like ARCO and Chevron, where the fake sun remains on the same street, and a grand departure from being anywhere, and it's never going to be in a natural environment. Speaking to Ramada by Wyndham, gang stalking like every other third-party company. The federal RICO case against the people of the state in California that's engaged in state surveillance, and this entity engaged in targeting in the workplace so that a sex offender like Tracy Banks, a liar and a fraud, a con woman with her sex partner, this con man, Jason Isaac Fields, can defame my character, and they relied on this criminal monitoring conduct of the Ontario Police of the state of California. That's what they relied on to manufacture at that, which is relevant to changing the laws in this country. And moreover, when it's already proven beyond a reasonable doubt, then you're looking at the entity that just engages in more of that harassment by flying over my head in real time as you listen to me expose that damning evidence, the relevance of what they're doing now and what they've already committed and what they failed in doing. The entity engages in more of that. That's confirmation. That's the fools that are engaging in that. And moreover, you're recognizing who you're going to prosecute, because Chevron is gang stalking me and making money while doing so. Disincentivizing public corruption is served by a civil and a criminal prosecution. Chevron is gang stalking and they're making money off of it, and they're doing it in furtherance of murder, and Chevron is intentionally doing that. That's behind the malice of a whole fake sun. While I'm showing you Chevron, I can prosecute Chevron in every city where they are engaging in targeting me through the demon-possessed that are patrons, the demon-possessed that are employees, the demon-possessed that are the government surrounding me at that venue where that entity, that Chevron is a part of that entity, engaging that P.O.C. And that's why the entity is engaging in that level of conduct while I speak about damning evidence. But that's very foolish, because you're definitely going to federal prison. That's not going to be, oh, she's lying because they're stalking in helicopter again. No, that's confirmation of exactly what it is that I'm establishing. And they're doing it under a fake sun at 10:13 a.m. The fake sun is over the OVITT Family Community Library. It's not going to be over the 1841 East G Street. And where I'm at, the 320 North Euclid Avenue, Ontario downtown luxury apartments, they're stalking. That's why I'm capturing the same environment in the afternoon at the same apartment complex. That's why the entity has a fake sun over 1841 East G Street, over my room in particular, which is showing that 55521H3 is targeting. So is 56104L3, especially when I'm at the same intersection where Alex Escobar is stalking at 12:53 in the afternoon. afternoon. You're looking at demons who are exhibiting severe mental illness when they're stalking at nightfall, aiming their headlights, and they're molesting with impossible light. License 6 RZB, a bunch of homosexual white women stalking a black woman obsessed with her vagina. 6 RZB 126. Obsessed with me and everything that I say and how I do it and how I say it. Homosexual women who are demon possessed, who are stalking in the same manner that these sex offenders are of the opposite gender. License HB 476 handicap stalking. License 9HVA171 stalking, 8LQU226 stalking, 8MON622 stalking, 7MNS333 stalking, 9GXM013 stalking, and there you will see 333 North Euclid Avenue where Alex Escobar is stalking at 12:53 in the afternoon at the same intersection. Okay, doing so with UPS, who you saw gang stalking by commercial plane yesterday at Everhome Suites at 1841 East G Street, and that's where the Ontario police were flying over your head. That's the entity that has no intentions of remaining out of federal prison. They don't even have any intentions of being anything other than outside of federal prison. All right, molesting me with impossible light while a demon is stalking in the path. That's license plate 9ULY195. This is a psychopath, a homosexual woman, again, stalking, exhibiting severe mental illness, stalking on the side of the road, aiming light, like a mentally deranged psychopath, who also lusts after my vagina, who also stalks in the middle of the night to touch, who does so with a whole operation used by a government that uses helicopters, all manner of technology, all of the vehicles of the Ontario Police Department concentrating on stalking one person that they are very much fearful of because of my ability to let you know what they are, i.e. demons, to let you know the environment that they're in. It is demonic. It's a whole illusion relevant to their mental illness, their deranged mindset, their unhinged methods of trying to murder someone and make it look like it's that person's own fault that is criminally defaming them while they are obsessively stalking as a whole police department. 9 RBC 708. This is not very helpful for the defendants that are going to federal prison, and that includes Jason Knighton is going to do substantial time in federal prison for co-conspiring my murder while kidnapping me in January of 2020 while he's engaged in criminal monitoring with the City of Ontario and his partner Lester Keys. Okay, and doing so in concert with Tracy Banks, who's acting with this government full of demons. They're all sex offenders. They all worship my vagina. They all engage in what is literally hostility to me, but they're also obsessed with me because of my ability to let you know what they are and what they're doing. They're also equally obsessed and hostile to it. The entity is very much foolish by stalking in the manner that it is. The Ontario police are clearly stalking. The Ontario police are clearly stalking yesterday. They are engaging in what is during the 9 a.m. hour and what I'm documenting at 12:53 in the afternoon. The same conduct. They're flying right next to the fake sun that's over me during that duration of time, 3 hours, and the fake sun is over me on both instances as I'm documenting yesterday and today, and the entity is doing so while I'm at 1841 East G Street and while I'm at 224 North Euclid Avenue, and they're flying by the fake sun while they're flying over me repeatedly, and they're doing so while they are monitoring evidence in real time, keeping me under surveillance and keeping the evidence against the United States government under surveillance. License 7TGR587. Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue is gang stalking. License 23602T2, stalking in the path, having a machine as a means of light activity, gang stalking with the population of demons that are pacing in and out of Wells Fargo amongst impossible light. And this business is engaging in exactly what Vector is engaging in. Williams Sign Company of Pomona, California 0131319, monitoring with the means of audible activity, engaging in what is present in the path. Activity creation is what is underway while the fake sun remains over me while I'm walking north and south on Euclid Avenue. License plate 23602T2. And this is Ontario Police that is monitoring with the means of activity creation, the corrupt businesses. It's the same thing that Chevron is doing as an establishment. All right, this is the entity that's engaging in that. It's currently 9:50 a.m. The entity that has the fake sun over the top of my head at 11:30 in the morning, where Ontario Fire is engaged in monitoring my vagina. As I open up the front door and Ontario Fire sounds its sirens, they were monitoring my vagina, monitoring the entire time I'm in the shower. These are sex offenders that are obsessed with my anatomy. They're obsessed with the way that my brain works. They're obsessed with what it is that I do and how I do it. And they're violent sex offenders that are also engaged in stalking, and they want to murder the person that they're obsessed with because Tracy Banks is of that same spirit. She wants to be me and she never will, and she's going to prison. And so is the demons that are stalking in helicopter. All right, it's currently 9:50 a.m. This is what Southwest Airlines is doing by flying over my head by commercial plane at 7:17 in the morning, at 7:12 in the morning, under the fake sun that's on the same street, Euclid Avenue, in the same city. All right, the entity is engaging in this while the entities document and maintaining an ongoing maintenance of an environment that is hold on, I want to document real quick. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct in an environment that is showing the consistent inconsistency of the environment, all right? The illusion where the entity is engaging in what it's targeting. And that's what the entity committed as I'm going from Chevron. Chevron is, again, located at 506 North Euclid Avenue. The entity is engaged in this conduct, and Maria Solis Alvarez, who I believe is from Mexico, that's deportation, all right? That's deportation upon federal prison. She's engaged in what is being present for, I believe, many, many years. She worked for speaker companies for many years, and she's gang stalking me, so it doesn't matter how long you've been in the United States. Domestic terrorism in the U.S. is the line, and you're being deported. If she's not a natural-born citizen, which I believe she admitted to me she is not, she is engaged in what is gang stalking me on the job in furtherance of murder and seeking to defame my character, a malicious actor targeting me in the workplace for that specific purpose of maintaining a basis to defame my character with Tracy Banks, with the state of California, with corrupt agencies like San Bernardino County, like Ontario Police, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, who have been engaged in targeting in the clear manner that the Ontario Police exhibit, in the clear manner that the city of Ontario, the people of the state exhibit. And this is a demonic system, okay? So the entity is relying on a lot of witchcraft. The entity is relying on a lot of voodoo, hoodoo nonsense while they're engaging in what is a malicious means of targeting someone in a manner that you're not supposed to be aware of it. Not only are you aware of it, it's very obvious, especially while the entity is stalking me up and down the street in a helicopter. This is what the entity is doing on a daily basis, doing so for years, and doing so while the entity has been in courtrooms, engaging in what is defaming my character, an ongoing campaign while they're gang stalking me the entire time, and then seeking to what is obstruct justice while I document and enforce my rights against it. Okay, that's relevant to the entity that's targeting LAPD, that's targeting in the workplace. Then this is what Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields have been relying upon, and what they've relied upon is that which they are engaging in. They have co-conspired in, and they are going to federal prison for it. The entity is engaging in this, and it's relevant to also federal stalking on the venue of the internet. YouTube is engaged in targeting. YouTube is targeting my content. YouTube is engaging in what is obstruction of justice and threatening my life and safety. This is the significance of YouTube removing my evidence. The entity doesn't have any privacy while they're engaging in what is gang stalking, targeting you, and violating your privacy in doing so. And you are necessarily putting that life-threatening criminal activity on the internet because the government is the criminal, and so is YouTube, who has a documented pattern of targeting my content for much lesser and superficial reasons, such as the fake sun, literally taking it off when I'm not documenting any, I'm not even stating any, the entity's taking off my documentation about court records regarding kidnapping, my information about the court case, my information about summons to court when I'm stating I'm not going, it's an act of kidnapping and I'm going to document because the entity's going to federal prison for this. The entity removed my video documentation that would expose the government. That's a threat to my life, and YouTube is the reason why I remain subject to this system to date. I'm going to civilly and criminally prosecute YouTube on the venue of the internet that is engaged in criminal surveillance. And the conduct of the Ontario Police Department is the evidence to serve to prosecute YouTube that is acting in concert with that entity. That is why I have documented evidence with simultaneity to uploading videos onto YouTube. The Ontario Police Department in real time begins flying over my head, gang stalking by helicopter in a threatening and harassing manner, pursuant to that real-time knowledge that is thereby demonstrated as that pattern of conduct is also reflected in the evidence. YouTube is going to be prosecuting. YouTube is engaged in the pattern of conduct, and surveillance is underway on the internet, and that's also how you know that. The entity is engaged in what is targeting me also on YouTube, while the entity is engaging in what is gang stalking, if you will, on the venue of the internet. A whole demonic entity is engaged in what is copying off of my content, stealing my content, profiting from theft of my content, engaging in what is stealing my identity on the venue of the internet. They're also practicing witchcraft. I'm going to prosecute with regard to the ongoing harms inflicted by the entity targeting online, which YouTube is going to be held responsible for. All right, it is currently 9:55 a.m. and YouTube's going to be responsible for it, and it is reasonably responsible for it, while I am a content maker, and this is not ordinary content, and it is very clear on my channel that I'm not engaging in what is just having a bunch of funsies, putting up pictures of BBL and my latest lashes and my newest weave and the latest sex move that I hold, and while I'm using witchcraft to steal somebody's man. I'm engaging in what is documenting domestic terrorism and psychological torture, which remains a threat to my life and well-being. I'm referring to federal law that I am enforcing and that I am pointing out while the government's engaging in that. I'm identifying myself. It is clearly very serious and nothing that is of any sort of superficial manner or nature, and that is putting YouTube on notice. YouTube is very much engaged in surveillance and has engaged in what is interfering with the public investigation, which YouTube doesn't have any right to do under the existing laws. Very much under the existing laws. YouTube is a third party, not a private company as well, while they're facilitating the pattern of conduct. While they've engaged in what is targeting my content in violation of their own policies. Their own policies. You're stating that you're talking about freedom of expression and teaching and education. Well, I'm educating, talking about the fake sun. And I can talk about whatever I want looking up at the sky, by the way. And the entities engaged in what is removing my evidence off of the internet altogether. And I've documented that. And I've documented a pattern of that. They did it dozens and dozens and dozens of times, while the entity was at the same time permitting other people to use my very content, word for word, verbatim, my video content, that the entity is engaging in federal stalking and monitoring. Okay, and stealing it, and YouTube is permitting other people to keep it online and profit from it. YouTube is going to be prosecuted civilly and criminally, and this is for your information that surveillance is underway on the internet. The entity is targeting somebody that they know very well is gifted, that they know very well is advanced. I'm not complimenting myself. I'm letting you know the reality, because this is the reality of what the targeted individual represents, while the entity wants to defame the character of that person and wants to harass and terrorize and psychologically torture that person in order to murder that person and steal from them. They want to not only steal my property, they want to steal my intellectual property. And that's not going to happen. But the fact that it already happened is relevant to targeting as well. That's what you're mindful of. License plate. Stalking with impossible light, monitoring on communication devices, gang stalking inside of Wells Fargo while Ontario police are stalking in helicopter. They're inside of Wells Fargo targeting. License plate 6WFH969. P.O.C. All right, it's currently 9:57 a.m. The ongoing criminal conduct of the entity is serving to establish the prosecution on the venue of the internet, where you're recognizing targeting and that ongoing concerted system that is in operation, and it is an unlawful threat to the life of an American citizen, to their well-being, to their privacy rights, while surveillance is indeed underway, and the gang stalkers in relevant position, i.e. the Ontario police, are proving and demonstrating real-time knowledge, that is surveillance of what's going on the internet, shared with targeting by third parties such as YouTube, that is Google. Okay, it is P.O.C. It's currently 9:58 a.m. at 224 North Euclid Avenue. The entity stalking by helicopter following from 224 North Euclid Avenue to 506 North Euclid Avenue, where the fake sun is on the same street that it was at 7:12 a.m. 231 South Euclid Avenue, it's the same street. The entity is keeping the fake sign. I am now north of the location of Economy Inn and the Mobile Gas, where I'm documenting the fake sun never leaving Economy Inn, the sunrise and sunset at that venue. But yet, when I leave in the morning, the fake sun moves as I move. It's not going to be present at Economy Inn in the evening, in other words. It's not mutually over both venues at the same time, and neither, under any circumstances in the natural environment, is ever the sun going to be over one address for 12 hours from sunrise until sunset. 2 hours later on the same street over the same person, 3 hours later. This is the entity that is clearly targeting in that environment, and doing so pursuant to knowledge. And by the way, the entity that's clearly targeting and is being exposed as targeting in the workplace, and then targeting in the workplace and trying to use that to falsely depict the character as one that can't produce for themselves, that can't take care of themselves, that can't handle holding a job, which I find to be legally irrelevant for any basis for a government to take your property. The laws will be changing when the entity is targeting you like this. That's not a constitutional basis. That's unconstitutionally vague. And I also find it to be irrelevant to what is establishing actual mental illness when the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct at the same time. This is serving for all of those multi-purposes. But at the same time, you want to be clear, the entity is engaging in what is targeting in that specific environment. And don't forget what they're doing at 12:53 p.m. Don't forget what they're doing when I left 1841 East G Street, got on the bus, captured video of the fake sun moving turn for turn from Bonneview and Hope Boulevard as it turns onto Hope Boulevard. And then, and by it, I mean the bus. And then the entity is keeping that fake sun through the window over me on public transportation. But yet it's sitting stationary already at the OVITT Family Community Library, where I didn't arrive until after 2 p.m., where that same Department, Ontario Police, intentionally engaging in what is a tactic of psychological torture, just like stalking in commercial planes, a tactic of psychological torture, just like stalking by helicopter, a tactic of psychological torture, just like stalking with impossible light activity. That's a tactic of psychological torture, just like stalking under a fake sun. That's a tactic of psychological torture, and they're being disbanded. They're going to federal prison. And this is what the LAPD is doing while gang stalking in the workplace, for which the employees of the SoCal division of speaker companies and the corporate office, they're going to federal prison. Don Nago, Kimberly Fletcher, the entity that's gang stalking in the workplace that will be on my phone while LAPD begins flying in circles over my head, just like the Ontario Police Department are doing under a fake sun that's not over 1810 North Alvarado Street at the same time. Same time of year analysis applies, and even when you take it out of daylight savings time, it's only 1 hour. It will never reconcile the fake sun being over Ontario Town Square and over my head for the duration of the day in the workplace, where the the entity was targeting, and then trying to use that as a basis, not talking about the fact that they're targeting, and that's why I resign. Oh, but I can't hold a job because I'm mentally unstable. You're going to federal prison for that. The entity that's criminally defaming your character is engaging in what is a program of psychological torture, and that's what the Ontario police, that is Mike LORENZ, is sharing in that conspiracy to murder and steal. He's going to be prosecuted. The department is going to be prosecuted and disbanded. It is currently 10:01 a.m. This is Amazon Prime, flying over where the fake sun is located, where the fake sun is still present after 6 p.m., by the way, 224 North Euclid Avenue, and capturing images of that fake sun. That is nowhere near 1841 East G Street, by the way. 10:13 a.m., I'm capturing a video of the fake sun over my head at my hotel room at the Ramada by Wyndham. And this is what the entity is engaging in while I'm going into published documentation. This is the evidence of the entity that's been targeting for years. And so has Tracy Banks. She engaged in kidnapping on May 29th. This is what the entity engaged in. It's a very foolish tactic because they're going to federal prison. That was Amazon Prime and the Ontario Police Department that are also gang stalking while demons operate on Amazon Prime vehicles, gang stalking on Amazon Prime, engaging what is targeting while engaging that P.O.C. with that same government. That's LAPD gang stalking with Amazon Prime. That's Ontario Police gang stalking with Amazon Prime. That's Costa Mesa Police gang stalking with Amazon Prime, etc. The entity is doing so under a fake sun that's over me, and the entity does so in a foolish endeavor. It's not stopping me from going right in and publishing this evidence. This gang stalking bum driving the black Altima, license 5SSK313, license 9TLP169. He can't even maintain his hygiene. He's gang stalking. He can barely speak, but he is monitoring as a homeless bum sleeping in his car with the Ontario Police Department under the fake sun that's not over 1841 East G Street, and it won't be in 10 minutes either. That's recognizing the pattern. That's what Vector is doing on G Street, stalking with peculiarized light. This is crossing paths, stalking, engaging in federal stalking, and doing so as a psychopathic and delusional practice while it is now exposed. This is the entity that's been engaged in targeting and monitoring my vagina. Gang stalking demons, calling themselves Jehovah's Witnesses. It's a cult. It is a false god. That's why they're engaged in criminal conduct of a satanic nature. It's P.O.C. Okay? 215 East C Street, fake sun. That's the targeting conduct by Amazon Prime as I go in and document. Published documentation. This is P.O.C. They engage in kidnapping right here on June 16, 2022. Those demons that are under this fake sun, at 10:29 a.m., they're going to federal prison. With San Bernardino County, they're going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. All right, that's Ontario Police stalking just like they are on August 21st, 2025, from 9:53 till 10:17 a.m. That's a pattern by the kidnappers of the OVITT Family Community Library. Sean Thrasher, remember him? Yeah, that's federal prison. That's the entity that's engaged in that. Just going into Chevron and chit-chatting like nothing has happened. That's mental illness. Exhibit, that's malice. Demons that are conspiring your murder and psychologically torturing you, and now they're doing it while everybody is looking at how psychopathic they are. You don't look innocent. You don't look like you're not engaging in it. You look like a psychopath. And this is the pattern of conduct that the entity does to ordinary target individuals who don't have evidence of it. All right, they're engaging in gang stalking inside of the OVITT Family Community Library where the fake sun is present while I'm here after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the Ontario Police is also stalking by keeping a vehicle outside of that entrance door. Okay, that's P.O.C. All right, it is currently 10:04 a.m. Every employee is of that same condition. They're all city employees, by the way, so they are going to be prosecuted as state actors, and they're monitoring. Okay, they're monitoring everything on the internet. They're monitoring while you're documenting. That's legally relevant. They're monitoring in that same psychopathic and delusional nature. They're not concerned with the conversation. They're not concerned with giving the kids bananas and applesauce in the afternoon with regard to the program. They're not concerned with giving the kiddies any sort of, they're engaged in gang stalking me. And they're demons in doing so, obsessively monitoring every move, obsessively monitoring, again, genitalia, sex offenders inside of a family community library, but then you're listening to that helicopter directly contrasting that. That's violence, okay? That's hypocrisy. That's mental illness, malice. That's P.O.C. It is public corruption at the Ontario OVITT Family Community Library where Paul Leon is gang stalking at 303 East B Street. P.O.C. Targeting for years. And so has Tracy Banks. She engaged in kidnapping on May 29th. This is what the entity engaged in. It's a very foolish tactic because they're going to federal prison. That was Amazon Prime and the Ontario Police Department that are also gang stalking while demons operate on Amazon Prime vehicles, gang stalking on Amazon Prime, engaging what is targeting while engaging that P.O.C. with that same government. That's LAPD gang stalking with Amazon Prime. That's Ontario Police gang stalking with Amazon Prime. That's Costa Mesa Police gang stalking with Amazon Prime, etc. The entity is doing so under a fake sun that's over me, and the entity does so in a foolish endeavor. It's not stopping me from going right in and publishing this evidence. This gang stalking bum driving the black Altima, license 5SSK313, license 9TLP169. He can't even maintain his hygiene. He's gang stalking. He can barely speak. But he is monitoring as a homeless bum sleeping in his car with the Ontario Police Department under the fake sun that's not over 1841 East G Street, and it won't be in 10 minutes either. That's recognizing the pattern. That's what Vector is doing on G Street, stalking with particularized light. This is crossing paths, stalking, engaging in federal stalking, and doing so as a psychopathic and delusional practice while it is now exposed. This is the entity that's been engaged in targeting and monitoring my vagina. Gang stalking demons, calling themselves Jehovah's Witnesses. It's a cult. It is a false god. That's why they're engaged in criminal conduct of a satanic nature. It's P.O.C. Okay? 215 East C Street, fake sun. That's the targeting conduct by Amazon Prime as I go in and document. Published documentation. This is P.O.C. They engage in kidnapping right here on June 16, 2022. Those demons that are under this fake sun, at 10:29 a.m., they're going to federal prison. With San Bernardino County, they're going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. It is 10:07. Is that the right time? Do you know what time it is? Yeah, it's 10:07 a.m. Just want to make sure. That's an employee that's gang stalking. They're doing so. All of the employees are gang stalking. The entity is following with impossible light, moving across the walls inside of this venue, which you'll see in the images, are the entity engaging in what is the demonic pacing. These are, what you'll know is that, first of all, these are demons. And then as you're going to criminally prosecute, it's public corruption. And these demons are stalking with impossible light, moving across the walls while smiling in your face, giving you the time, saying good morning. The demons don't typically say good morning to me because they know that I'm documenting them, while they have to act like they're not, because that's admitting to what is surveillance. But not only that, this is what you're hearing the untrained demons, like at what 7-Eleven is engaging in last night. What are you talking about? What I'm doing on my phone? How do you know what I'm doing on my phone? And the entity has admitted to that many, many, many times, by the way. So unbeknownst to them, because they're not legally equipped to endure what is a prosecution on the streets where they're gang stalking me. So this is the entity that is targeting, and you're going to use everything that they state because it's legally relevant, while they're monitoring as well, and they're speaking as a state, they're acting as a state, and this is literally a state facilitating venue of the city of Ontario. But I just want to be clear, the entity is following with impossible light, which is speaking to the malice of the employees who are engaged in surveillance, not working any constitutionally protected conduct, and they're also maniacal psychopaths engaging in what is targeting someone in the workplace in a manner that's not supposed to be suspected or recognized or proven or even accepted, but for the evidence of that P.O.C. Okay, it's currently 10:09 a.m., but you already know this because the entity has the fake sun over the entrance, and it's remaining over at the same time of 1841 East G Street, my hotel room, room 3326 in particular, where this same entity is a sex offender keeping a woman under surveillance in a hotel room. Everything concerning that woman, including her genitalia, in the bathroom of that hotel. It is currently 10:09 a.m. This is P.O.C. Oh boy, that's funny. They are so funny. All right, remember the fake sun is over the window over the staircase, both at 12:53 p.m., the same time that the Ontario police are stalking me under a fake sun at 1841 East G Street, which I documented yesterday, August 26, 2025. That fake sun is over the same window where a demon is using a bookcase, and the moment that I start pressing record on my phone, it gets very quiet. Those are psychopaths. Those are the psychopaths that you see on camera. Oh, just chit-chatting like nothing is happening. This is what the gang members live by the way. If in their alternate universe nothing is happening, that's how they operate, and that's how you're defaming the target individual as well. They're going to be diagnosed with the evidence of gang stalking. That's the evidence of a malicious psychopathic mental disorder, not the evidence of ignorance or coincidence or just any sort of happenstance or absence or any exclusion delusion from the pattern of conduct. It is the pattern of conduct, and it's also unpersuasive as I embarrass demons who are psychopathic, engaging in that P.O.C., that level of delusional behavior. It's 10:11 a.m. P.O.C.
All right, it is indeed 10:13 a.m. All right, and this is evidence that all presence is relevant to stalking and monitoring in that specific environment, which is a supernatural. You see my shadow come from behind, moving up. This is demonic. It's stalking with light while the demons are stalking in the path, just coming in to engage in surveillance by studying a device, and they engage in what is noise creation. I have shadows on both sides. That's a demon and that's a stalker. All of them are, including the employees. And it's not sunlight that's on the floor right here. The fake sun's over my hotel room, room 326. That's not sunlight. And that's not the sun that will be over that, like I'm documenting every day. Those are sex offenders that stalk in the bathroom, that remain present around the bathroom, including the sex offenders that are at the circulation desk. And these are the demons that are being removed from office. They're being removed from office at a state facilitating venue of the OVITT Family Community Library while they're stalking me using a helicopter at the entrance, like I documented on podcast, like I documented on August 21st, 2025. And it is 10:13 a.m. while I'm starting this video, and the entity has a fake sun over my hotel room at room 326. And this is stalking that's underway as a matter of public corruption. And the fake sun is still here after 6 p.m. where a population is engaging in surveillance together with them. And there's sex offenders that are obsessed with my vagina. Those are homosexuals. That's what you need to know. They have a homosexual spirit and they engage in homosexual behavior of a violent nature, because not everybody that's a homosexual is necessarily a sex offender. But I just want to be clear as a matter of prosecuting in a federal court, okay? But this is spiritual, and understand that that's a spirit, and they're engaged in homosexual activity, and they're stalking me, monitoring my vagina in the bathroom, in the women's restroom, and they're also gang stalking.
Molesting with impossible light. This is a sex offender, a demonic one that's engaged in sexual violence through the practice of witchcraft, touching me at a distance with impossible light. 7VLH331. All right, my video stopped recording, so that's storage, but I captured the video. It's 1 minute and 42 seconds. The demons that are stalking with impossible light activity include Ontario, that's engaged in federal stalking operation of the communication device. You'll see that. This is the city of Ontario that's engaged in monitoring, where the fake sun's over the same time my hotel room, room 326 at 1841 East G Street, and over 215 East C Street at the OVITT Family Community Library, where this is light activity pursuant to federal stalking license 1580150. All right, and the entity has the fake sun over me in the same manner. This is, again, Paul Leon's criminal engagement as a corrupt municipality that's engaged in surveillance. And they're doing so, again, that is the city of Ontario that is indeed engaged in criminal monitoring. Monitoring the genitalia of women is what the municipality is engaged in. Standing in front of a stop sign is not superseding the presence of the fake sun, where that municipality is engaging in that P.O.C. License 36145U2. Stalking with impossible light activity, doing so while they are engaged in the pattern of conduct. And the city of Ontario is gang stalking under the fake sun that remains over the same entrance in the evening. And this is not over 1841 East G Street. This is a psychopath, that's a demon, okay? That's engaging in what is activity creation, bad dancing, bad singing, it's a demon. This is P.O.C, it's currently 10:17 a.m. That's the entity that is stalking with impossible light, also inside of the library. So they're inside engaging in that P.O.C. This is the pattern of conduct here. I'm going to refer to the video that I captured inside of my hotel room, and it's over the top of my head at 1841 East G Street. That's Ramada by Wyndham. A pattern of conduct of stalking, but with the Ontario Police Department as well, is documented at the Baymont Inn. That's by Wyndham. And also Wyndham is documented targeting La Quinta Inn by Wyndham. It's already documented. Do you mind letting me back into the room, please? Thank you. And also the entity that is targeting by La Quinta, Baymont, and Days Inn, okay, where I'm showing you the fake sun that's remaining over me at all of these aforesaid venues, which is relevant to criminal monitoring that Wyndham is engaged in, and that is proven while the fake sun is over me at both venues, which is not the natural environment. It's impossible to be the case. Thank you. All right, that's speaking to the malice of an entity that is stalking and following in a helicopter and doing so. This is what the entity Jason Isaac Phillips has been acting with and targeting me for years. This is what Tracy Banks has been acting with and targeting me for years. This is why the Ontario police are stalking me at her apartment, as I documented from September 2024 until May 29, 2025, when she engaged in kidnapping. With the Ontario Police Department that are stalking to date. Okay, so the entity that's stalking me is what she is maliciously targeting with, as though she's calling them. Linda Reyes is upset, and that's why she called the police, because I attacked. That was all, first of all, the entity that made up an information. This is a psychopath that doesn't want it, like a woman, can't just say, I want you to get out because I just want you to get out. You don't even have to give a reason for somebody to get out of your house. But the reason why she engaged in that is because, first of all, she is a psychopath who is engaged in what is targeting and is relying on a secret conservatorship. So engaging in what is a kidnapping pursuant to what is that secret conservatorship with her sex partner, her husband, Jason Isaac Fields, who is engaged in what is a fraudulent marriage to me on paper for their material enrichment, stealing from me and defaming me, engaging in what is a kidnapping with the stalkers who are the Ontario Police, the demons, the malicious and corrupt government that are the Ontario Police Department in San Bernardino County, who I showed you targeting me at 12:53 in the afternoon together, documenting that license plate. This is the entity that is on the next day providing more and more evidence regarding what I've already established as a matter of fact and beyond a reasonable doubt. Not only that, the entity is doing so while Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks are subject inevitably to federal prison for this. And it's not just those two, it's just that they are at the forefront of this ongoing solicited criminal offense committed by a government against me because they sought to steal my property. They already have, and they sought to have my demise in order to get away with it and conceal it. And if I were to ever say anything, I'm supposed to be defamed. And I've explained this before. I want to be clear, to date, the entity is subject to federal prison as I document impunity. The entity is engaging in this conduct, and the entity that's engaging in what is stalking by Amazon Prime over my head under the fake sun, the entity is keeping it over my hotel room. It does not get any more precise with that level of targeting in that environment, and doing so as then the entity engages in what is chasing me down in helicopters as I'm walking into the library where the Ontario Police are stalking at 2 in the afternoon, and the fake sun is already here. You're hearing that, I'm documenting that, and this is what the entity is doing in the face of that evidence. There is no federal investigation by the federal government. That's what I'm stating. The federal government that is not engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring is not going to be conducting an investigation where the state of California would be engaging in this obvious criminal activity together. Okay, so and this is something that the federal government would readily identify as targeting, and the federal government would also interfere and stop that ongoing violence that an American citizen, you would be required to do that. The entity is engaging in what is stalking and monitoring as a federal government's pattern of conduct. And there is no ongoing investigation. The federal government, like I stated, has been targeting at the outset. And this is also why Jason Isaac Fields is going to federal prison. The entity is engaging in this, and he is not targeting by himself. He is still targeting to date while I'm documenting that pattern of conduct. He's engaged in witchcraft. He's spiritually attacking. He's delusional with regard to spiritually attacking and engaging in nothing other than gang stalking me while the demons are monitoring my evidence. This demon is in the spirit rejoicing when this is how delusional Satan is. You spend all of this time and resources pacing around looking crazy, okay? I document you looking crazy. I document you stalking me in crazy methods, like as a population, like under a fake sun, amongst light flying all over the place, making corporations like Starbucks look absolutely, absurdly demented. Makes you think twice about drinking their coffee. Okay, makes you think twice about being around them. The demons that are associated with that company, by the way, but those are demons, and they're engaged in this conduct while they are monitoring evidence. So you spend all this time monitoring a video. I have over 7,000 videos on the internet, and the entity engages in a lot of energy of over one video. And the entity is engaging in what is exhausting itself when, first of all, it's going on the internet. Second of all, when you're slowing down the internet, the entity is, again, this is what this demon, Jason Isaac Fields, is, and this is somebody that is spiritually attacking me and will under no circumstances in the physical be before the public stating that he's anything other than a predator, anything other than a co-conspirator to murder, anything other than a sex offender, having sexual activity with other people, men and women, while looking at me in the nude on the internet, where this demon was making money off of it. This is what's gang stalking flying in Ontario Police Department helicopters. They're sex traffickers, they are pedophiles, and they are stalkers that are obviously targeting while I am, for the third time this morning, going from place to place, and they are pursuing in a helicopter while I just so happen to be reciting very damning details about an ongoing case. This has nothing to do with what is anybody's imagination and what level of obvious criminal activity targeting like that, absurdly obvious methods of harassing someone would the government do in the face of that federal government that's maintaining an investigation. No one is doing that. Not in front of the federal government that's not engaged in the system with them. Okay, the entity is engaging in this conduct, and the federal government has been engaged in targeting. I stated that this is the United States government's pattern of conduct. That's how you, and what you know that by is because a fake sun is over you in Florida. Wherever you are at in Florida, and I'm talking to you, it's a plural term with regard to you, because there is not just one fake sun in Naples, Florida. There's not just one fake sun. There's necessarily millions of people in Florida, and it's a large state. I'm showing you one fake sun that's remaining over one person on one street, and this is today. Yesterday it was over an entirely different street, over a distinct building location, which is not shared with what it's doing on the next day. And what you're looking at is the pattern of targeting by the Ontario Police Department. The Ontario Police Department that's directly engaged in methods of criminal defamation and kidnapping. While Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields relied on that, they summoned people to go into courts that are engaging in targeting me, defaming my character in order to steal from me, while they've been doing exactly what I'm documenting, stalking me and harassing in helicopters, engaging in psychological torture, stalking in commercial planes, stalking as a whole population of sex offenders and psychopaths who look the opposite direction while they're stalking you with light, look the opposite direction while they're stalking you with the gang stalking police department, go around engaging in conversation with themselves. They get very talkative and get very busy with themselves while they're being documented, but they are still stalking. That's showing the obsession. That's not, you're not only looking at delusional people who are showing you how gang stalking is executed, they're showing you gang stalking by obsessive demons. Okay, because they're going into that venue. They're going to stalk you by making that purchase. They're going to do so while maintaining activity. This is the entity that is engaging in what is very awkward and obvious criminal activity, but they will still engage it. That's how obsessed they are. That's how willing they are to run into a federal case. That's shared by the Ontario Police Department. The demons that are stalking at 7-Eleven at 731 South Euclid Avenue, they're doing so in furtherance of murder and theft. They're doing so while bearing weapons, representing a corrupt police department that's been engaged in a pattern of kidnapping, threatening my life, and stalking and psychologically torturing as a department while I'm documenting and enforcing my rights in that documentation, which you're necessarily doing while the government is pursuing you, trying to steal and kidnap you and accomplish your demise. The entity is engaging in what is this conduct as a department, which is necessarily including that federal government. So this is what is relevant. The entity is engaged in what is theft of my property and money, while I am literally in a position economically for the government to target me in the manner that Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields and the city of Ontario. Remember, the Ontario Police Department stole my vehicle. In 2019, the Ontario Police Department are the one that then denied me through the criminal conduct of the San Bernardino County Sheriff and the San Bernardino County courthouse, denying what is that which I'm entitled to. First of all, service of process and my civil case against the state of California. That is Thomas Garza, San Bernardino County. This is enabling the Ontario Police to engage in what are acts such as stealing my property in 2019, which then that same courthouse, San Bernardino County Court, engages in what is denial of justice that I'm entitled to, default judgment because Bill and Wags did not timely respond to the case while they're engaged in federal stalking on the venue of the internet the same day that I go to the court to file my application for default judgment. This is when the gang stalkers of the Danielle Couture of the gang stalking law firm that are engaging in what is federal stalking and claiming to be then on that day that I'm applying for default judgment, seeking to confer with me via email, and they're doing it well after the deadline, and I don't have to respond to that. Neither am I going to when you're engaged in targeting. You're engaged in criminal activity by using your license, your California license at that, and this is in concert with the entity that engaged in what is evading justice, obstruction of justice, denying justice after stealing my vehicle with the Ontario Police. This is the entity that's been engaged in targeting while I am documenting and repeatedly kidnapping. This is the entity that is targeting, as LAPD is the same public entity. It's a superficial distinction to go from LAPD to Ontario PD. It's the same entity. Same fake sun, same stalking amongst impossible light, same amplification of audible activity, the same demonic pattern of conduct, same hallmark of stalking by helicopter. The same entity is stalking me in the workplace in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens with speaker companies, and they're subject to federal prison. The entity is doing so while interfering with my liberty right to maintain employment free of domestic terrorism and psychological torture and furtherance of murder and kidnapping because they want to steal from me. All right, the entity does so and then defames my character in reliance upon their own criminal activity, where all you're relying on is the fact that I resigned from my job. So you're relying on somebody from that employer who's defaming my character, because the speaker companies is gang stalking in the workplace. You're going to federal prison. Any utterance of any defamation, your participation is a criminal act. They're all participating in what is something I know nothing about, pursuant to property I was never told about, pursuant to what is court hearings and people that are participating knowing all about property that belongs to me, but I don't know anything about it. Nobody ever told me. While the entity is gang stalking through the those who are supposed to give you notice about it through the mail, that's relevant to the evidence of USPS gang stalking, Amazon Prime gang stalking, UPS gang stalking, FedEx gang stalking. Okay, all mail carriers are engaging in that P.O.C. as well. The entity is engaging in this while chasing me down while the fake son is over the 1841 East G Street. That's Ramada by Wyndham, who was gang stalking. That's relevant to what I'm documenting at Hesperia's 9750 Key Point Road, Holiday Inn, the San Bernardino County Sheriff gang stalking under a fake sun outside of my hotel from sunrise until sunset. With the population of demons that are stalking in Chevron, that's the population of demons that are gang stalking at Holiday Inn, and it includes CAL FIRE, who engaged in what is maintaining stalking presence at that hotel. That is, again, the entity that's not engaged in firefighting. They're engaged in surveillance. They're engaged in surveillance. They're engaged in what is arson to keep themselves employed. They're engaged in arson to keep themselves employed, to also enrich the state government that requests federal resources regarding fires that are lit under a fake sun throughout California. Claiming the climate, it's not even the natural environment. These are demons that engage in arson to put themselves on the news while they're engaging in all manner of the use of resources of the state. The state's being depleted while they're putting out all these fires that are starting every year because of the climate that is, again, occurring under a fake sun, where I'm showing you criminal surveillance. CAL FIRE and the Ontario Fire Department are the same public entity, gang stalking. Okay, the entity is engaging in this while they are chasing me down in helicopters at Ontario Town Square. What prudent person that doesn't want to appear in an ongoing investigation by the federal government to not be engaging in what the allegations assert in the P.O.C.? That's not the federal government that's engaging in any investigation, and it's not the federal government that's not engaged in targeting. Jason Isaac Fields is going to federal prison, and this is a demon that is engaged in witchcraft, rejoicing when they are expending all manner of their own energy on one video when I have 7,000 videos on the internet. And it's not just YouTube where my documentation is published. Jason Isaac Fields is going to federal prison, and this is, again, relevant to the federal law that's going to bar him from ever coming into my presence, from ever having any right to be in my presence outside of going to federal prison. This is no longer anything other than what is a domestic terrorist who threatens my life and safety, and who is still engaged in that ongoing criminal conspiracy. It doesn't change, and the federal government is not engaging in any investigation while the Ontario police exhibit this level of impunity. In the fact, on the world stage, where surveillance is underway, I want to be clear, the federal government is aware. The federal government is not ignorant. The federal government is aware, and the federal government is not investigating. The federal government is targeting. And the entity is aware of what it is that I'm publishing on the internet. So understand that the federal government is engaged in that conspiracy to commit murder. They are not ignorant about the fact that I'm not a criminal. They're not ignorant about the fact that I am not mentally ill. The entity is targeting someone that they know very well is capable of exposing this whole satanic organized system of surveillance, which is the organized crime of murdering and kidnapping and setting up American citizens in this country. They're very much aware of my advanced abilities in doing so as well. And this is why the entity has been targeting me. And this is why the federal government has not interfered, because the federal government is a part of the pattern of conduct. Okay, it's currently 10:32 a.m. and that's relevant regarding the Ontario Police Department regarding demons outside dancing and singing under a fake sun. That's at the same time over the Ramada by Wyndham at 10:13 a.m. This is what I documented on video, and I will associate that with the video that I publish onto YouTube. All right, using that platform with regard to exposing the pattern of conduct where you're identifying demonic activity, which is a threat to ignorant American citizens in the United States. That's the significance of you knowing about the pattern of conduct. You're also witnessing what is Christ Jesus enforcing some judgment, okay? You're also witnessing judgment that's going to occur in the physical. This is a prosecution of the demon-possessed. It is currently 10:33 a.m. All right, this is P.O.C. Psychopaths are stalking inside of the library. All they're doing is pacing all day long while I'm inside using communication devices, while I'm inside documenting, while I'm inside relieving myself in the bathroom. Homosexual women are stalking in the bathroom, and gay men who are predators with these homosexual women are stalking in the male's restroom, surrounding, while the Ontario Police is doing the exact same thing that you heard them doing on podcasts and that you see them doing on video as it's published online. Stalking and monitoring my vagina. This is Mike Lorenz's public declaration as a violent sex offender of the highest level. an unprecedented level of sexual violence. In fact, criminal surveillance by a government that's monitoring the genitalia of a woman who a whole police department is keeping under surveillance in conformity to a pattern of conduct, because the Los Angeles Police Department, Dominic Choi, is also a violent sex offender, keeping my vagina under surveillance in the workplace and in my home at Alvarado Gardens, 1806 North Alvarado Street, apartment number 6. Okay, this is what the entity is doing while I am documenting that as a matter of what is evidence. Okay, a bunch of demons are stalking inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, demons that are anticipating evidence, demons that are obsessed. Anticipating evidence, but still obsessed, okay? That's the entity that is engaging in what is the ongoing conspiracy to commit murder. This is the entity that's engaging in that and doing so with knowledge that they are being documented. Nothing that the Ontario Police Department is doing is separate and distinct from what's going on inside of the building while I'm showing you stalking, monitoring, sexual violence. It's P.O.C. It's 10:34 a.m. at 215. Wow. Okay, so you're witnessing homosexuality. You're witnessing what is idolatry with regard to the worship of another woman, actually, while she's stalking. She's engaging in stalking, and she's stalking as an entity, and she's stalking as an entity in a bathroom. This is actually homosexual conduct of a violent nature, and it is also state action. This rusty, crusty, dusty demon is stalking in the bathroom space with regard to knowledge, and is specifically engaging in that sexually perverted conduct with regard to obsession of my vagina. This demon is stalking in the bathroom that's filled with engineered light, stalking in the bathroom that's in the venue of the OVITT Family Community Library under the fake sun. At 12:17 p.m., the entity's keeping the fake sun at 1841 East G Street, where the Ontario Police have yet to gang stalk by helicopter as a matter of evidence at 10:32 p.m. and 10:52 p.m. 10:32 p.m. with the San Bernardino County, who have engaged in what is targeting via criminal defamation, while they are actually sex offenders who are engaging in what is obsessive stalking and obsession with me as well. They just happen to be involved in the medical field, and those particular malicious demons are engaged in what is kidnapping with the intent to defame in furtherance of murder, while violent sex offenders gang stalking in the same manner that this rusty crust dust mite is coming into a bathroom stall to stalk another woman, a homosexual violent predator who's acting on behalf of the Ontario Police. Okay, the helicopter activity is relevant to the stalking in the bathroom inside of that venue under the fake sun and in engineered light. This demon is captured inside of the private space, and this is an entity that is literally worshiping my vagina. The male and female sex offenders are stalking. The entity maintains amplified audible activity while they worship my vagina as it's exposed, while they maintain monitoring conduct. This is entirely illegitimate state action. The government is not only engaging in criminal surveillance, the government's a sex offender keeping my vagina, especially in particular, under surveillance. The entity engages in what is going through my trash, ruffling through my trash, saving what is my blood, my tampons, my pads. Literally, the entity engaging in what is saving this while they worship my vagina, and I'm giving you evidence of them stalking me in a bathroom. Homosexual women who are engaging in this conduct with predators whom they are not under any circumstances chastising or calling out for violence against another woman, monitoring my vagina as males, keeping the bathroom and my vagina under surveillance. This is what the so-called family community library is engaging in. Okay, these are a bunch of homosexual women. Homosexuality is not that which you have been told that it is out here in this world. It's rooted in a spirit. And a woman that's obsessed with my vagina, a woman that trifles through my trash so she can suck the blood out of my pad, a woman that engages in what is treasuring that which is attached to my genitalia, my underwear, anything that I wear, anything that has had any close proximity to my genitalia area. This is what the demon-possessed worship. They offer it up to demons. This is the demonic conduct that the Ontario Police Department, because you need to understand that their gang stalking is associated, the Ontario Police is associated with idolatry of genitalia, that it is stalking and monitoring as sex offenders. That's why you've got a demon in the bathroom stalking, because that's all you're doing under the fake sun and an engineered light. I will go ahead and remind you about the documentation captured yesterday. There is no sun that would be over the entry of the OVITT Family Community Library. 24 hours ago, it's remaining where the Ontario Fire Department are showing to be stalkers and sex offenders, raging maniacal psychopaths who need to be removed as a threat to the public, stalking using fire trucks and engaging in surveillance as a fire department. The absurdly mentally ill conduct of stalking and
and monitoring my vagina, which is what they were doing inside of my hotel room at the Ramada by Wyndham, which is what I documented under the fake sun. The fake sun is, again, an object where you're clearly seeing the evidence of targeting, but it is not at the same time over the entry of the OVITT Family Community Library. That entity is engaging in targeting at the venue where I'm located, and it is not occurring at the same time. So this is letting you know the specific interest in my vagina as I'm in a private space, and those that seek out my blood in order to pray to Satan with it, in order to target me as they practice witchcraft by it, in order to literally digest it in their systems while they engage in demonic rituals. This is what the Ontario Police Department is engaging in. This is why their mental illness is proven through stalking me in helicopters. This is mental illness that you also need to know about. Stalking in bathrooms is very much related to the practice of witchcraft. It's very much related to homosexuality and the predatory nature of gang stalking. It is currently 12:21 p.m. When I say rusty, crusty, dusty, it's exactly what I mean. And that goes for the police chief. That goes for the gang stalking demon, the homosexuals of all races and ages. The entity, the homosexual women are sending in their minor children to monitor my vagina as well. That's what I documented last night. You want your children on the venue of the internet for being sex offenders, because that's what you are, and that's what they're going to be exposed as. These are the sex offenders that are engaging in sex acts with children, and the entity is going to be prosecuted for it, okay? It is currently 12:21 p.m. This is the sex offense of Mike LORENZ, Alan D. WAPNER, Paul Leon, Michael GERKEN, monitoring my vagina, obsessed with it, keeping it under surveillance in the bathroom on the first floor of the OVITT Family Community Library, where a fake sun is remaining over it, still at 12:21 p.m. That's not the sun that would still be at the same entrance, even at 10 a.m. And it's not the sun that would be over the entrance when yesterday it's remaining at 1841 East G Street, noted by the hallmark of stalking by helicopter by San Bernardino County, crossing path, in concert with the Ontario Police. We're at this venue, by the way, that same duo engaged in kidnapping and criminal defamation on June 16, 2022. That's the same entity that's obsessed with my vagina. That's P.O.C. This is bathroom monitoring at 12:22 p.m. P.O.C. at OVITT Family Community Library. Hold on one second. It's 4:19 p.m. It's patrolling. Amplification and patrolling. It's all activity creation, and Ontario police are stalking in helicopter. Remember that. There is a whole audience pursuant to what's going on in a private space. This is a sex offender. That's impossible audible activity. And something that is worshiping what's between your legs and wants to be next to you while it's exposed. That's a sex offender. And also knows what you're doing as you do it. Stalking with activity, stalking with a possible riot under a fake sun. It's all in a bathroom. I'm gonna call you back. I'll be done in a sec. I'll call you back.
All right, you have, again, a trail of dust mites coming in. These are demons, and these are sex offenders. These are women engaging in homosexual violence, obsessing over my vagina and wanting to be next to me. That's stalking in the path. While that which is amplified audible activity, meaning it's not even naturally occurring, it's the sound of the train outside when there's no train on the tracks. It's the sound of the train when the train is not heard throughout the entirety of the city of Ontario. The entity is doing, that's intentional conduct while a stalker is crouching in a stall next to me, in engineered light that's inside of the bathroom, and the fake sun is still over the same entrance. I'll show you that. These are sex offenders, and these are homosexual women who are demon-possessed. This is a Jezebel spirit, in particular with regard to demon possession, that is compelling sexually perverted women to come into the bathroom to engage in state action on behalf of the sex offenders who are the state of California, the public entity. Keeping my vagina under surveillance, gang stalking using helicopters. This is what Mike Lorenz is engaging in while stalking is happening in concert with that department inside of the bathroom at OVITT Family Community Library. It's 4:23 p.m. The entity is keeping the evidence under surveillance and engaging in ongoing sexual violence. That's relevant to the sex offenders who are in office, who are going to be removed from office. And that includes Paul Leon, who is in the building behind the OVITT Family Community Library, monitoring my vagina at 303 East B Street, while the sex offenders are entering in on his behalf, gang stalking me as a citywide effort of criminal surveillance. It's P.O.C. It's 4:23 p.m. This is bathroom monitor. License 8CO9511, 8TVE010, 7WIN575, 7JXS638, PZA10T, that's Arizona, 9RRC667, and State Facilitating Venue Ontario Town Square is where the Ontario International Airport is maintaining aerial surveillance by hovering as I exit the OVITT Family Community Library at 8:53 p.m. by commercial plane hovering over the venue, while a bunch of demons are sitting in the dark stalking one woman, monitoring my vagina together as a citywide effort as well. That's the entity that's sharing in sexual violence with the Ontario International Airport. That's Alan D. WAPNER, attaching a name to sexual violence and terrorism and psychological torture, while the entity is maintaining the surveillance of the evidence that I continuously publish online. Okay? This is criminal conduct that you need to know that Tracy Banks is engaging in. Tracy Banks is engaged in unlawful maintenance control over property that belongs to me. She's going to federal prison. And the city of Ontario is engaging in what is gang stalking me, while this third party is engaging in what is targeting me, conspiring my murder with the city of Ontario, the state of California, while she remains in unlawful possession and control through what is criminal activity of this same government, a secret conservatorship, and refusing to give property to me, refusing to hand it over, refusing to even admit. And she's also aware of the evidence that is being published. You've heard her, you've witnessed me documenting her for years, you've witnessed the city of Ontario targeting me with her, and this is the criminal activity that Tracy Banks is relying on, acting in concert with, and this is why she's going to federal prison. And the city of Ontario is engaged in that conspiracy to murder and steal. Okay, it's P.O.C. It's 8:55 p.m. Mule Car Smokehouse is gang stalking, and this demon is stalking in the path. License 7VPU448. Union Pacific is a means of stalking in the path. Is this my? Oh no, that's a Latino male with a minor child engaging in sexual violence, stalking. Stalking in the path with light. This is terrorism, while demons stalking the path. This is what they're doing under the fake sun, stalking with light. And at nightfall, when the fake sun's covered up, the fake moon is present though. The entity has a fake moon as I walk outside of the OVITT Family Community Library, a little fake crescent moon. The entity is engaging in what is stalking in the path by this potbelly Latino male, 7ZJL580. And remember, Mule Car Smokehouse is located at 200 East C Street. I'll confirm that address. 21812C4. This is P.O.C. All right, Mule Car Smokehouse, 200 North Euclid Avenue. That's where the entity is stalking, and Mule Car is being prosecuted, is responsible for criminal activity that's happening on the venue of the grounds, on the grounds of that venue, including while demons like that third party with that vehicle and a minor child, stalking with light, doing so while parking on the sidewalk in front of that venue. In other words, going to the gas station regardless of anybody being inside of the venue, parking in the parking lot of the mall even though the mall is shut down. The entity is going to be prosecuted. It's not going to be based on limited business hours, based on the way that the operation of criminal surveillance is underway, and because the entity is during business hours fully engaging in and extending its property, its venue for criminal surveillance, and they will be held accountable. It's a federal RICO case under all circumstances. It's currently, again, 8:57 p.m. That's the entity stalking as I exit with planes. Remember the entity stalking at the south end of the same street where the fake sun remained this morning? That's the Ontario International Airport that is indubitably targeting Erica Lorraine Spencer specifically, while Tracy Banks remains in unlawful possession of property that belongs to me, counting on my death in doing so. And Alan D. WAPNER, the city of Ontario, the state of California, acting further into that conspiracy. And you're going to have what is a domino effect. A lot of people are going to federal prison, a lot. P.O.C. 1769635. That's Ontario Police stalking at 150 East Hope Boulevard. As the fake moon is over the intersection, as engineer light is present, the demons are stalking with light, as I've shown you, as you have been trained to recognize the pattern of conduct, which is right in your face. This is surveillance that the Ontario Police are engaging with Tracy Banks, who is engaging in what is this pattern of conduct with the state with regard to theft of property that she utilized in secret conservatorship and a fraudulent marriage to a former fake friend of mine in order to steal. In furtherance of murdering me, she tried to not just steal it, but she wanted to have me detained against my will by defaming me, trying to have me locked up in an asylum, making up, and through the kidnapping conduct of the Ontario Police Department in doing so, to have me locked up in an asylum somewhere while she used gang stalking. You're recognizing the use of psychological torture to defame somebody, and I've shown you how that's absurd as well. But nonetheless, this is Ontario Police with that license plate that's stalking in that specific environment, acting in furtherance of the criminal pattern of conduct that is very much in real-time, ongoing perpetration of that crime in furtherance of conspiracy to commit murder and kidnap. While they are stalking in that specific environment, while they're keeping the evidence under surveillance, while they are still in the specific environment, they're not engaging in law enforcement. The Ontario Police have already proven that they're stalking me. And by the way, when they're engaging in tracking me down, chasing me down in helicopters up and down the street, they've already demonstrated that they're not doing anything other than stalking me. And you're not forgetting that when I document a license plate. You're not forgetting that. This is what the entity is doing, and that license plate that's relevant to criminal surveillance while the people of the state are stalking with that corrupt police department that is doing so. Remember, Tracy Banks remains in control and in possession of property that does not belong to her. This is absurdly criminal, obviously criminal, totally corrupt, absolutely corrupt. So this demon is sitting in possession of property that it does not belong to her. It's not in her name. She has no right. She engaged in what is trying to fabricate a whole bunch of information in order to keep it. That didn't work. She's watching it unfold, break apart, implode in real time, and she is a psychopath just sitting on property that belongs to me. So it's going to be forced out of her hands. She's going to federal prison. Not only that, the entity that's gang stalking me with her, the people of the state of California, they're being exposed for a system that's been long existing before this demon, this high school graduate, concocted the idea that the entity should target me for this reason. The Ontario Police are being disbanded for acting with Tracy Banks and trying to take my life and my liberty and property while targeting me with Tracy Banks. Remember, she remains in custody, unlawful custody of property that belongs to me, and the Ontario Police Department, the state of California, is still gang stalking me. They are still acting in furtherance of a conspiracy to murder and kidnap. The Ontario Police are going to federal prison as I continuously document this P.O.C. All right, it is currently, again, 9:02 p.m. That's at the intersection. That license plate is engaging in what is an unlawful threat, psychological torture, gang stalking, monitoring, surveillance, and furtherance of murder. And doing so with an unlawful threat, the intent to obstruct justice while they're keeping the evidence under surveillance while they're engaging in that pattern of conduct. They're not gang stalking me and I'm ignorant about it. They're gang stalking me and I'm exposing it in real time. That's why they engage in tracking me, chasing me down in helicopters, and it goes on the internet. That level of impunity, the Ontario Police Department, those demons are going to federal prison. And you're going to run back all the tapes. You're going to see the disregard that they have for the law when they engaged in that conduct. Not how sorrowful they are and regretful they are when they're standing before a federal judge and it actually happens. Because these demons are delusional. It's currently 9:02 p.m. This is P.O.C. All manner of terrorism by this demon, vibrant, impossible light. 7 TCV 749, sitting in the middle of the street waiting for me. That's a stalker. And so is 7XFG223, sitting in the dark, monitoring what that demon stalked with a possible light. These demons that are living already in an impoverished area, they can't even afford to engage in what is this conduct. They can't afford to lose their liberty. They can't afford to lose. Clearly, you're looking at the neighborhood that they live in. They can't afford the smoke that they're asking for. It's 8ZFW627, but they're engaging in it. This is a spirit. That's what I told you. Their mental illness, their ongoing addiction, their criminal conduct, and they're going to regret it. License 9BTS698, license 67522C4. That's the Orkin man, gang stalking, living, probably having a commercial vehicle where they live, they're gang stalking. 9DDN173. Sitting in the middle of the street, waiting, monitoring me with all these demons that are living in irrelevant position. 9HHK369. 188Q1Z2. License 53519W2. Lighting up the perimeter. A demon on the opposite street over here, stalking. This is, by the way, a bunch of demons, bunch of gang members at Park and Lemon. License plate 6LKT333. Gang stalking. Gang stalking where they live. And this is the criminal activity that the police are engaging in with them. License EF95P15. That's a paper plate on a Jeep. License 4MPR664. License 60730L3. All right, engaging in what is touching with light, stalking. That same license plate again, 9BTS698, stalking me as I'm walking through the neighborhood, making a U-turn and molesting with light. That's a demon that's stalking with everybody that's living in these houses over here. All right, this is the entire neighborhood that's stalking. All these gang members engaging in domestic terrorism, living in the hood, and can't even afford to pay civil damages, can't afford for an attorney, can't afford for the costs with regard to being prosecuted. They can't afford it. License 9HQC764. They can't afford to be deported. All right, they can't afford to defend themselves with regard to a federal case. 9PKG153. License plate. 6BEB578. License 7SHH944. And this is a molestation by the entity that is gang stalking. License 6UHW559. Looks like 521. All right, a little gang member back here stalking on the side of the road. These are what the demons do. So you're recognizing stalking on the side of the road during the day when the fake sun is over my head and you're looking at somebody sitting on the side of the road in their vehicle, they're stalking. And you are stalking where you live. The government has no warrant or probable cause to keep me under surveillance while gang members are living and facilitating venues, engaging in a malicious pattern of conduct. There's no warrant or probable cause to engage in surveillance in that manner at all. P.O.C. All right, license plate again, 6LKT333. You'll see my shadow on the back of her car. That's impossible light activity. 6LKT333, and my shadow is also behind me. That's a demon, and she is stalking with light. She's engaging in surveillance, and she's engaging in surveillance with the whole neighborhood. That's, again, telling on everybody. While a demon is stalking, they tell on everybody. Just like the fake sun, it's telling on everybody. All right, that's P.O.C. So I want to make sure that this is clear, and this is blowing the whistle. The gang stalking immigrants engaging in surveillance at Park Street and Lemon Avenue. And it looks like this is 521 Lemon Avenue. That's one of my documents, 521 Lemon Avenue, a facilitating venue. Engage in that pattern of conduct. This is where I'm at right now. One of the addresses on this street. Engaging in surveillance. I'm documenting. Engaging in terrorism. Stalking me. Molesting me with light. Sitting in the dark. Stalking. Waiting. That's terrorism while a bunch of stalkers are waiting for you to arrive. Those are the demons that are conspiring your murder. Those are the demons that are targeting me along with Tracy Banks. That's sitting on a secret conservatorship who has not been forced to relinquish property that belongs to me. While I'm in the middle of the dark being stalked by a bunch of psychopaths who are obsessed with my vagina. Yeah, that's the entity that's going to be federally prosecuted for conspiracy to murder. Gang stalking is the criminal system that is the tantamount to conspiring to murder someone. P.O.C. creeping down the dark alley. License plate. This is Clean Start. Hold on. Clean Start Cleaning Services. License 9KGV736. P.O.C. Meeting at the alley is stalking. That's the same conduct, tracking your steps. Stalking with light is occurring during the day under a fake sun. A fake sun remains over my head. Everybody is stalking with light. Those are demons. 9MVR038. Documented them before. Documenting them again. 21984. That's an Illinois plate. Okay, this community receiving what is government money, government funds, receiving government money in order to support themselves. Gang stalkers are not going to be receiving any sort of government assistance. They're not remaining in this country if they're immigrants. They're engaging in this criminal conduct with this level of impunity with the gang stalkers of the Ontario Police, and that's exactly the badge that they proudly wore before, and that's the badge that's going to have them literally living in an impoverished state because the government's not going to help pay your rent. You're not receiving any, no terrorist, no convicted gang stalker is going to receive any of those benefits, and this is what you're going to learn. This is what you're going to learn. The entity is engaged in this P.O.C. and it's going to change the trajectory of your life. So if you're living on welfare today and gang stalking, living in the hood, you're going to be homeless tomorrow because the government's not going to be paying your rent. You're not collecting any food stamps. You're not getting any money. Nobody's going to pay you to go to work. Nobody's going to pay you to sit at home and make more babies that the government's going to help you pay for. You're going to figure it out on your own as a demon-possessed terrorist since you think you can gang stalk and collect money from the state. No, that's going to end. And if you're not even a natural-born citizen, you're not staying here. You're getting deported. All right? This is what's happening while those are in, they're the demons in the hood. You can't even afford these types of problems, and you're engaging in gang stalking. You don't know when you should sit down and mind your business. You don't know when you should stop. You don't know when you're homelessness for your children. It's more important than trying to gang stalk somebody that will prosecute you to the full extent of the law. Then you need to be sitting out on the street. You need to be trying to figure it out on yourself without the government providing you any funds, because this criminal conduct, this case, on your record, you're not getting any government assistance. You're not, it doesn't matter what you're not getting any government assistance. You're not staying in this country as an immigrant. All of those things are going to be removed. It's inherent to a pattern of conduct to disincentivize exactly what the population is doing. This is P.O.C. All right, it's currently 9:12 p.m. That's public corruption. And the entity's engaging in this, and again, in the ghetto, in the hood, and also in the suburbs, where they are equally dusty crusties, by the way. You're not less of a dust mite when you're driving some sort of Lexus. They're all monitoring my vagina. Don't forget that. They're all monitoring my vagina. When they're taking the bus, and when they're driving in a Range Rover, they're monitoring my vagina. They're all dusty crusties. All right, it's P.O.C. It's currently 9:12 p.m. Don't forget about this policy. I'm just giving you a hint. These are what the demons are doing. They're acting with impunity. It's going to come back and sting them because this is going to be a federal prosecution, a prosecution of a population. Everybody can't go to federal prison. Oh, but none of them are staying if you're not a natural-born citizen, and none of them will be receiving things like government assistance ever again, ever. It's currently 9:12 p.m. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, license 6DKJ103, 9UHZ 598. Stalking at ARCO, the amplified train activity is speaking to criminal presence and light activity. 8PSC 644, 8ZXA 330. ARCO is located on Euclid Avenue. ARCO is crossing path. ARCO is stalking as an establishment. The specific environment follows, including the demons, who are the people of the state, following with light and audible noise. Monitoring like psychopaths. Okay, P.O.C. It is 9:13 p.m. This venue is located at 703 South Euclid Avenue. Molested with impossible light as I walk in. Hello. That's audible activity. That's audible activity. That's a demon that's monitoring. Okay. All right, thank you. I thought you would have had maybe like a ice thingy or something. Have a good one. Oh, you have it. Alrighty, license molesting is the demons whose license plate I just read, and so is ARCO. ARCO's engaging in a sex offense. ARCO is a sex offender. Engaging in the pattern of conduct, you are a sex offender. And it's a sexual violence committed as a public entity. It is 9:14 p.m., excuse me. P.O.C. again, that's 703 South Euclid Avenue. License plate. I think this is the employee license 9PXJ271. That's at 73 671 South Euclid Avenue. That's the 7-Eleven of the demon that was, again, having intuitive knowledge about what I'm doing on my phone. Okay? I wonder if he can tell the future about what's going to happen to him, because I told him he should have already known that he was going to be deported. Since he knew what I was doing on my phone, he could see through it and tell me what else. He should be able to tell his own future because he's being deported. It's currently 9:16 p.m. That audible noise is relevant to ongoing monitoring. This is demonic. This is very demonic. Let me go ahead and identify these demons for you. This is audible noise and engineer light. This is a demon sitting in the dark, license 5LKK067 and license 9F71088. Demons monitoring, and they're monitoring with 7-Eleven. They're parked across the street. They're a means of stalking in the path with light, and these demons are psychopaths. These are the type that are, again, monitoring my vagina, P.O.C. All right, those are sex offenders, and those are demons. That mental illness that wants to conceal itself and present as normalcy is exhibited in the ongoing audible activity creation, the stalking with activity creation behavior, the stalking with light conduct, and the entity that is, again, telling on them. That's why the entity is stalking with planes. Those license plates are indeed engaged in criminal monitoring with the government, doing so in the specific environment. 731 South Euclid Avenue, the immigrant that's being deported is gang stalking with the City of Ontario, just like I stated, and he should be able, since he can tell me what I'm doing on my phone without being able to see it, he should also know that he is being deported. Him and his family, okay? If they're not natural born citizens, if he married somebody else that's also not, him and his baby mama, his wife, whoever, they're getting deported. And the entity that's so genius stalking over their shop, which is attributed to criminal conduct to gang stalking immigrants who suffer deportation when you're monitoring with the state. All right, he should be able to know that. Okay, but again, when he can tell me what's going on my phone, then he should know that that's coming. P.O.C. License plate with the Ontario International Airport, 8CRZ 301. All right, and everybody else at the intersection is also stalking with the Ontario International Airport. Let me tell you who they are. 9A EU 671. This is surveillance, not the traffic lights, just ongoing people minding their business. No, these are stalkers. 5DRZ320, the entity that's obsessed with my vagina, the entity that seeks out my used pads and tampons so that they can ingest my blood, the entity that has sex with minor children, the entity that summons demons while they're engaging in what is spiritual warfare and also stalking in the physical, which is also satanic. As I've shown you, they're stalking under a fake sun. They're engaging in a ritual while they're pacing all around me as a bunch of demons who do obsess over my genitalia. License plate 8KFN672, engaging in psychotic behavior such as stalking in planes and helicopters. License plate 8PGU656, those are all sex offenders. And they're all obsessed with my vagina. That's what they share. That's why they're gang stalking. And this is the conduct of Tracy Banks, a pedophile who's been obsessed with my vagina since the day I was born. She's a pedophile. License plate 7LES997, and they're targeting me specifically with knowledge of Tracy Banks' ongoing criminal conduct of keeping my property. This is why they're targeting. It's very specific. License 9BSU903. These are the demons that seek out my bodily fluids. This is very satanic, very demonic, very sick and mentally demented behavior, especially while they're stalking me in commercial planes. That's letting you that level of extreme conduct. You know what else they do that's extreme? They seek out my used hygiene products in order to offer them up in satanic rituals and ingest them. That's what demon-possessed people who are worshiping Satan engage in rituals surrounding, and that's also what they don't want you to know about. But let me tell you, everybody that I'm documenting, this is what they do as an entity. It's a cult. It's a sex cult. This is a coven. They worship Satan, and they're engaging in conduct as a government. This is what you need to know is associated with the Ontario Police Department, associated with the Ontario Fire Department, the conduct of the Ontario International Airport. These are demons that are practicing demonic activity centered around collecting my bodily fluids. Okay, that's the entity that's stalking me in planes and stalking me at the 7-Eleven Quick Mart and telling me about what I'm doing on my communication device and stalking me sitting around hovering, concerned about everything I'm doing on my device. And guess what I'm doing? I'm prosecuting. So they're sitting around stalking and monitoring somebody whom their witchcraft doesn't work on, and I'm here to expose it, and I'm also going to prosecute them for it. This is why they're stuck on why it's not working. Because somebody that they typically engage in targeting, they're already dead by now. And that's not going to work. And you are also going to know that Satan is real, so is witchcraft. That's not to instill fear, that's to inform you, and also to advise you that you need Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior. You need to repent today. They murder people. They murder people as an entity. Okay? It's currently, by the way, 9:20 p.m. And when I say mental illness, that's what I mean. Mental illness. And I shouldn't have to tell you the truth, that they ingest my blood, okay, during menses, okay? That's because that's the only way you're getting my blood. The entity is, there is no circumstances where I go and the entity, I'm giving out blood. They're going through my trash. This is what Tracy Banks has been doing for years. They're going through my trash. They're ingesting my blood. They're seeking it out, and they engage in ingesting it and praying over it and worshiping it. This is the Satanism that's associated with flying in helicopters over my head. It's a ritual. They also engage in what is ingesting, stealing my bodily fluids. They obsess over it. When I say mental illness, that's exactly what I mean. I mean that. You're witnessing it through the pattern of conduct. You also need to know that this is what they do with my bodily fluids while they're stalking me in the bathroom, and they want to snatch up the used pads that I put in the trash can. All right? They want to be next to me while my vulva is exposed in the restroom, while they're pacing all around. In the engineer light monitoring, it's spiritually significant, it's perverted, it's mental illness for the normal person, for the healthy people like you and I. But I'm breaking that down because I'm exposing Satan, and I'm also going to embarrass Satan, because this is what they do that I don't want you to know about, but this is exactly what they're doing. They are very much homosexual women. They're very much predatory. These are males and females who are stalkers together, who are sex offenders together, and they literally wear children as a mask. These predators walk into the bathroom with kids. I've documented it so many times, especially at the quote-unquote family community library. They're predators. They're predators, and these women would force themselves on me if they could. If that was a way that they could be me and steal my abilities and steal my identity, that's exactly what they would do. It's a spirit. A demonic spirit. It's a spirit of mental illness. It's a spirit of that energy of somebody that wants to rape you. That's of a spirit. That's of a spirit, and it's a demonic spirit. And that's what the entity wants to do. It's sexually obsessed with me. It's also engaged in what is inspiring a whole population of people. This is the practice of witchcraft that's operating over people. And their witchcraft doesn't work over me. I'm not tricked by Satan. I'm certainly not fearful of Satan. I'm not intimidated by Satan, and I'm here to prosecute Satan. That's what's happening. And this is revealing their mental illness. They've been ingesting too much of my bodily fluids. They're engaging in what is their delusional. While they provided evidence, I was just talking about this last week. You provided me a series of videos of you stalking me for 20 minutes flying over my head, and you did it in a specific environment. They know that you're demons under a fake sun, and you provided that evidence. And then the next day, like somebody forgot that. They engage in chasing me down today on another day in helicopter, as I am reciting very damning information regarding gang stalking in the workplace that was committed in furtherance to Tracy Banks' purposes of killing me in order to steal money and property, because she worships money as well, not just my vagina, all right, not just my bodily fluids, because Satan has her mind very sick and deceived, where she thinks she can be me if she can get my bodily fluids in her body. It's never going to happen. This is a sick person. But you need to understand that's a spirit. That's what's stalking me. This is a spirit that is stalking, and it's nobody's imagination. You see the documentation of the Ontario police stalking? You see that documentation of that light flinging around all over the place? Those are demons. And then you see the documentation of them engaging, oh, just, hey, how's it going? Oh, God bless you. Oh, yeah, it's just such a wonderful day. These are the demons that I'm catching engaging in the P.O.C. That's how they outwardly present themselves. And then you're mindful of that's coexisting with the entity going psychotic, stalking me for 25 minutes in a helicopter, chasing me up and down the street. And then they act like that. And you also need to know that they're also ingesting my bodily fluids and stalking me in order to get them in bathrooms. This is P.O.C. It is currently 9:24 p.m. Ontario Police gang stalking at the venue of what is. Those are the demons that are stalking again as an entity. So let me give you the license plate of the co-defendant. License plate. 8NQR431, poor little putt-putt can't accelerate too much. The Ontario Police putting people in federal prison, getting people deported. This is also why they're being disbanded. They are responsible for the criminal activity that has multiplied with regard to their practice of witchcraft, with regard to their obsession with my vagina, with regard to their engagement in sex rituals, with regard to their acceptance of compensation to engage in criminal conduct as a corrupt police department, with regard to their mental illness that is given permission to be all out on display while they engage in what they do every day. So all I'm doing is putting it on the internet. This is what the Ontario Police Department has been doing for decades. Now they're being disbanded for it. Pay attention to the timing. These are the mentally ill that think that it is prudent to engage in stalking. That's what that is, as they listen to me document. I cannot say a word. There is nobody in their right mind that would engage in gang stalking, and there is no one in their right mind that would be engaged in the conduct, the obvious conduct of the Ontario police. Anyone in any federal government, notably, is able to recognize the ongoing pattern amongst the entity that is targeting, that is engaging what is a clear pattern. Whether you like me or not, it's not based on that. It's based on what it is that I've exposed and the clear recognition of that, and the entity is targeting. There's no getting around that, and the entity thinks that it's prudent to do that. So every time that I document, there's the Ontario Police, there's the Ontario Police. The entity's engaging what is ongoing evidence in furtherance of what it is that I have established. They are going to federal prison, and there is no way around it. Not only that, they're going to be subject to what are mandatory mental examinations. This is the entity, this is the demise of the entity that's been engaged in being a secret, covert enemy of the United States. They are a domestic enemy, a homegrown enemy. They hate the Constitution. They hate American citizens, and this is because they are of the devil. Satan, who hates you, who hates me, and yet you serve him while you are in darkness, and he deceives you in doing so. This is operating through a corrupt, demon-possessed law enforcement agency who's going to be removed because in the United States, it's not law enforcement, it's domestic terrorism when you're engaging in what is stalking American citizens while in that position, masquerading as having that authority. That's domestic terrorism, and you are an enemy of the freedoms that you're supposed to be protecting. You're an enemy. You are a threat to American citizens. That's no ordinary criminal conduct. The Ontario Police Department is a domestic enemy. And they actually hate the Constitution, and based on their condition and their criminal conduct, you need to understand what it tells you. It is literally unequivocal conduct proving to you that they hate human beings. And that's because they are of the devil. All right? They're engaged in this conduct. As you see that violence of stalking me in a helicopter, look at it. I don't have to say a word. That hostility inherent to stalking me in those planes flying over my head as I document, following me, that sort of pursuit, and doing so put me in the position of somebody that doesn't have evidence, that doesn't have the presence of mind to do what I'm doing. This is what they are doing with the desire to ruin someone, to break someone down. That is hatred for a human being, and it's inexplicable. An innocent American citizen, with regard to law enforcement, they are supposed to be literally like your best friend. They're public servants. All right? So you're talking about even when there is a criminal activity afoot, probable cause, you know, those doctrines that exist, even then they're supposed to be professional in the execution of their duties. Meaning you don't get to just be a jerk because you suspect. So that's not how law enforcement works either. But they're not even on the right side of the law. And you need to understand that this is not just corruption of an ordinary degree. This is Satanism. And they are literally an enemy of the United States. And this enemy of the United States has been calling itself a police department. That's very dangerous. And this is a problem that fills the state of California, and it's in the United States. And it has been tolerated and facilitated because this corruption fills the country. This is a surveillance system, and it is of the devil. And there's no exaggeration there. And these are absolutely psychopathic people who are stalking in demented ways, lurking in the dark, aiming light, aiming light. They're out of their minds. Okay? They're bat poo crazy. To keep it PG, okay? They're bat poo crazy, if you know what I mean by that vernacular. They are literally, okay? And if I had to give you a literal example, they're ingesting my bodily fluids, and they're in search of it. They engage in specific rituals based on the time of the month. They sit around worshiping my genitalia. They are demons in doing that. That is idolatry. That is of the devil. That is satanic. Not only that, it is mentally deranged. That's what's driving Ontario Police Department vehicles. That's what's calling itself a police chief over the Ontario Police Department. That's what's conspiring with Tracy Banks, a witch, living off of witchcraft, living off of stealing from people, living off of deceiving people, living amongst an illusion, living amongst the illusion of being a sane individual. She's absolutely psychopathic with multiple personalities, Tracy Banks. And that is the demon-possessed person as well. That mental illness that is closeted, it's no longer closeted. It's not. They're stalking with light. That's a psychopath. That's a psychopath. And I'm surrounded by them while they're gang stalking. And they would love to both engage in what is sexual activity with me and also at the same time kill me. That's satanic. At the same time, they want to do both. They want to do both. The entity is engaging in, that's the mental illness that is within the entity that is gang stalking. The domestic enemy is the one that's engaging in domestic terrorism and psychological torture. The domestic enemy is one that despises the Constitution and the rights that the inherent rights that it respects amongst American citizens that are not government provided. They're God-given. These ideas and principles, Satan is inviolate. Satan actually inherently has a disdain for that, and you need to understand that these are demon-possessed people. They have a disdain for that, and that is not based on their position being in law enforcement while they're presenting themselves and their profession as though they're not of that condition, not of that mind. Their conduct is proving it to you. You are what you're doing. This is why they're gang stalking. And these are domestic enemies, and they're going to be treated accordingly. Domestic enemies are no longer closeted and concealed. And the Ontario Police Department is going to be one of the first disbanded. That's P.O.C. It's, the entity stalking by commercial planes, and a bunch of demons, one after another, are pacing, stalking me as a population. Stalking me as a population. They know when my period starts. They know what it is that I'm using. This is the detailed knowledge about me, while a population of people that fill the city of Ontario, that are stalking in planes and helicopters, that are maintaining the operation of their business around me, doing everything that they're doing with regard to monitoring me. Every detail about me. And also what's between my legs. Those are the mentally ill and the violent sex offenders. The demon-possessed, who are very much a threat to the public. And that is no exaggeration. License plate. License plate 9G63699. And license plate 7TYT371. P.O.C. This is an old Latina female. Another homosexual, elderly woman, gang stalking a woman in the middle of the night, stalking. The entity has no life. They set up in the library today. I'm showing you people that are engaging in criminal surveillance on behalf of the state. It's a whole investment by the demons. This is something that's going to affect their lives with regard to the gamble that they made with Satan. License 9MCG955. It's going to affect them. They've sacrificed their future. They've sacrificed their life. They've engaged in a lot of witchcraft. All right. I don't practice witchcraft, and I don't put any faith in that hoodoo, but it is real, and there's a reason why Scripture tells by those who walk with Christ, His word is what you are supposed to be walking in obedience to. If you know Him, then you follow Him. The Bible says, if you love me, then you'll obey me. And those who walk with Christ, that you know what the Bible says about witchcraft, and you're not supposed to practice it, and it's also very real. And the entity's engaged in conduct betting on my death, and it's not going to happen. And the entity, this is also why they are so invested in it. This is why you see that psychopathic conduct by the entity gang stalker by helicopter. That's supposed to be the most tremendous threat possible. Okay, but it's also the most obvious identification of targeting me, like I've already stated is the case. And it's not working, but it's also, the prosecution is already done. Meanwhile, Tracy Banks is sitting on property that belongs to me. She's just sitting on property that belongs to me, just engaging in what, again, in Christ Jesus is going to deal with all corners of this issue. I'm doing what He told me to do with the prosecution. The prosecution is complete. But understand that there is a spiritual tax for the demon-possessed to pay for the wicked that they have done. The Bible says that you are not supposed to touch His anointed, do them no harm. And they did that and more. And they're still doing it. And I want to be clear, like I said, do not be deceived by what you see. I am prosecuting. It is the most silly, most foolish, ignorant, and delusional thing that you could do with regard to evidence and with regard to answering for what the entity is doing as a matter of evidence, okay? But there is no but. And as far as the entity that's engaging in what is stalking me, for example, in helicopters, everywhere that I'm going, and doing so while I document, then you're going to use helicopter? Like, I never stop documenting when they engage in that. I go, there you go. There's confirmation. That's how you already knew that they were stalking. The entity does it the moment with regard to what it is that I'm speaking to. All they're doing, Ontario Police isn't doing anything other than stalking me. Everything that we did this, and we were on the beat here, and we discussed this, and we had a meeting. This is that's the presentation on the surface. They're engaged and invested in surveillance. That's why and you know that because a fake sun remains over me on one street in the city of Ontario. And when I go to a different street, a whole grand departure from that obvious identification of targeting. It's also obvious when they use helicopters of the Ontario Police Department. A hallmark that I've shown you is shared by all law enforcement agencies. It's shared. So the entity that's engaged in this stalking with helicopter, this business, those are the demons that are actually very fearful. They're very scared. they are quite perturbed. The way that things have turned out and the way that things that are going. And I want to be clear, while they are delusional, which you manifest the behavior of being a delusional psychopath, they very much are aware of the fact what's happening, but they operate amongst illusions. That's getting to mental illness, regardless of what you know, and the demons know. They know. But they are, again, incapable of dealing with factual information, and it's more scary, so they engage in more of the same. And when you engage in a contract with Satan, you don't get to just stop, but Christ Jesus says, so you make a decision. Are you going to repent? Oh, you're not going to repent. Okay, well, there's a penalty for that as well. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and as a matter of evidence, the case is complete. But as a matter of judgment, with which the prosecution is a matter of the Lord's judgment as well, but as a matter of judgment with regard to Christ Jesus, who sits on the throne, the entity they're very much fearful, and that's also relevant to what you're looking at. These are demons who are freaking out. That inability to control yourself, that inability to act like you're not stalking, at least act like you're not targeting me. They can't even do that because that's how scared they are. And they include the demons that are stalking me in helicopters. Those are acts of fear. That's an act of fear, believe it or not. And I catalog all of it because they're going to prison and they're going to mental asylums. And the people that are acting with them, targeting me with them, they're going as well. Don't everybody, you know whose name they are because I kept a very detailed record of who's targeting with the Ontario Police. While they're chasing me up and down the street, there are people who are going to federal prison for targeting with the Ontario Police Department. They're going to federal prison. They're going to federal prison, but the entity's engaging in this, and they're doing so with regard to ongoing knowledge of the evidence, and that also colors the crime. Not only did you engage in it, but you knew that she was enforcing her rights the whole time. So you're just going to chase somebody down until the day you're able to kill them, regardless of them trying to enforce their rights? That's the domestic enemy. That's the enemy to the United States. That's the enemy to American citizens. That's the one that hates the Constitution. That's the one that actually hates this country. And then has the audacity to be in law enforcement. No, they're being removed. They're being removed altogether. All right? It is currently 9:37 p.m. This is P.O.C. License plate 7WAJ 961, and molesting with this sex offender that comes with that. They can make sure that they touch me as I walk behind the car. Sex offenders. License plate 9LLZ168, driving an Acura. That's the entity that's full of sex offenders stalking a woman and also lusting over her vagina against her will while you're stalking her in the middle of the night. This is sexual violence that the government is engaged in with the entity that's full of sex offenders. All right, engaged in what are an entity full of predators, full of perverts. And they want to present themselves as being normal, everyday citizens, engaged in everyday society and civilization, and all manner of perverted and predatory conduct, including with their chicanery with light. Okay, making sure that they're able to touch while I walk behind Grandpa driving that car. This sex offender pulls up and makes sure that they touch all over my body with light. That's a sex offender. That's also a gang stalker. Understand the gang stalker is a sex offender. That mens rea is what you're getting at. I got to make sure that I touch you. Make sure that you don't get away. Make sure that you do not escape. Okay, that's a psychopath. That's a stalker, and that's a sex offender. License, by the way. 7MXS 542, 9SNM 538. 8848, 8B48251. It is 9:40 p.m. Stalking, license 50802H1. A bunch of stalkers working at the Ontario Christian School at 1907 South Euclid Avenue. First of all, you already know that they're not Christians. That's just a label that Satan likes to use. They're engaging in stalking in the dark at the elementary school. Lurking, stalking in the path. And they're on the grounds of the so-called Christian elementary school where children are in the presence of a bunch of pedophiles. The same gang stalkers, they work at elementary schools. They're engaging in what is having access to children. You saw that in HD when the Ontario Montclair School District held what is federal group stalking and monitoring under the guise of a school festival, a summer school festival, under the fake sun while they're all monitoring me. and centering their attention physically on the surface level about children and everything benefiting children, and it's all about children. They're engaging in what is gang stalking me, actually, and that's all that they were focused on in concert with the state, and doing it under a fake sun. All right, it is currently 9:43 p.m. And that's the threat that the demon-possessed sex offenders that obsess over my vagina, that ingest my bodily fluids and pray to Satan while practicing sexual violence as a society, that's the threat that they are to children who are growing up around that and who are also being violated. I told you that they're pedophiles. All right, this is P.O.C. AJZE064, another demon that has to run engineer light across my genital area. 12212E4. They're all sex offenders, gang stalking by putting gas in their tanks at the market where I'm at. License 6ZBF822. This is what they're doing under the fake sun at Chevron, where the Ontario Police is stalking by helicopter. 7YHW875. That's psychopathic. While, first of all, a whole clan of demons engage in that together, while you conspire against one person together, while you obsess and stalk one person together, and then also while you're feigning being focused on something else, while your whole objective is stalking. And the way in which you're stalking, you stalk with noise, you stalk with light, you stalk in the past. They're psychopaths. All right, this is mental illness exposed, license plate 9TEG700. These are the demons that engage in pedophilia. These are the demons that worship my vagina. These are the demons that seek out my bodily fluids in order to ingest them, in order to pray to Satan over them. This is Satanism, okay? And it's manifesting in criminal activity that you're able to prosecute for. It's currently, and it's also a revealing mental illness, closeted mental illness by a population, and that's a threat to the public. You need to know about it. All right, it's license plate molesting, a demon that's running engineer light behind me, gang stalked with the demons beside me. License 98CW054, sex offender. License 9MNA800, sex offender. Ecolab, sex offender 21588R2. That company's a sex offender, and that demon operating that vehicle is a sex offender. All right, it's 9:54 p.m. and the entity is gang stalking at Wineborough, just like I showed you this morning under the fake sun, while a whole bunch of demons are stalking with light. That's monitoring. That is surveillance. And they're also stalking at night with light because they're engaging in stalking, gang stalking, surveillance. Gang stalking is demonic activity. The demon-possessed that engage in all manner of wicked conduct, all manner of demented behaviors that they don't like being discussed out in the open. But that's why they engaged in what is targeting me, because it's my job to expose it. And I'm going to prosecute them. All right, and that prosecution is also going to be embarrassing. It's 9:54 p.m. This is P.O.C.